Part 30. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 292. Yilin is very fast. Xingfei even tried his best to suck the breast, but he could only hang far behind Yilin's butt. The steps of both of them have the shadow of the longest step of the national fitness gymnastics. Xingfei couldn't run because his attributes couldn't keep up. There was nothing to say. As expected of the agility side, Xingfei sighed secretly in his heart. The TV station is 4 stories high, and the paint on the exterior wall is peeling off into colorful shapes. There is a transmission tower at the top. There was a middle-aged security guard in a blue uniform at the door, with his belly puffed out and his head lowered. He squinted his eyes and fell asleep by the door. Actually already asleep. Yilin directly activated following like a shadow and slipped in. Xingfei panted slightly. Seeing that Yilin entered easily, he originally wanted to rush in bravely. Unexpectedly, when he approached, the middle-aged security guard with a big belly opened his eyelids, raised his chin, suddenly took out an old-fashioned electric shock baton from behind, and looked at Xingfei with a stern look. "Stop, stop. Damn it. Who are you? Are you not allowed to enter the TV station?" "Ah, this?" Xingfei pointed at the back of Yilin, who had just left. "Are you so blind? You pretended not to see such a big person passing by? Are you targeting me?" The security guard shook his head. He was smart and would not be easily fooled by Xingfei. He glared at Xingfei, turned on the electric shock baton switch, and said fiercely, "Quick, get out of here." Xingfei sighed, but he had no choice but to take out a pair of snow-white gloves and put them on slowly. The backs of the gloves are engraved with round and delicate patterns, and the texture is as detailed as a fingerprint. "You forced me to take action. Why bother? Why bother? Wouldn't it be nice to sleep well while talking?" Xingfei looked helpless and pressed his gloved hands to the ground. Refined. After Yilin entered the radio station, it was found that the place was in a mess. Various people wearing work clothes lay scattered in the corridor, spread in a pool of blood, and they had already turned into corpses. Late. Yilin frowned, and with one glance, he roughly guessed what happened. The trio's behavior was so violent. After learning through other means that a certain radio host was named Green, they came to the door in the most brutal way without saying a word. "There's some trouble now." Yilin quickly walked through the corridor, his eyes casually passing through the corpses. He saw that some of the corpses had twisted limbs, some had a prismatic blood hole in their carotid artery, and some even had their heads smashed flat, with white flowers all over them. His brains burst out, and the red and white liquid mixed into a lump, which was very dazzling. 3 close combat types. 2 of them should be apostles on the strength side. 1 is good at fighting with fists and kicks, 1 is good at using heavy weapons, and the other one is interesting and has some similarities to my habits, most likely an apostle on the agility side. This style is very much like that of mercenaries, leaving no one alive along the way. Yilin quickly concluded the rough configuration of the trio. While Xingfei was away, Yilin did not continue to pretend to be agile, and her telekinesis spread and penetrated the floor partitions. Wherever the perception reaches, all movement and stillness are clearly discernible, all in Yilin's mind. After a while, on the top floor, it's strange to say that there was so much movement inside that the security guard at the door could still sleep like a bird. But perhaps because of this, he escaped with a small life. The internal structure of the TV station is complex, perhaps because there was no scientific planning for the corridor structure when the building was built, and it was expanded roughly several times later. The old and new corridors are intertwined. If it were not for the acquaintances within the TV station, this safe passage would be light. It took me a long time to look for it. The point is, there is no elevator. Yilin was thinking, and without stopping, she went directly to the top floor. As soon as she arrived at the top floor, Yilin saw the two apostles wearing black vests. One wore a steel glove, and the other held a huge hammer. They were opening the doors of each room and searching each room skillfully. Wherever the two of them passed, screams could be heard, and soon the screams stopped abruptly. Yilinian's power perception spread. Suddenly, the mottled shadows on the wall twisted strangely. The shadow quickly condensed into a slender figure. A woman wearing a black vest, with uneven texture, emerged from the shadows without warning or making any sound. The dark upper body was still shadowed, while the lower body was strangely integrated into the shadow of the wall. He held a bright prismatic thorn in his hand and stabbed the side of Yilin's neck accurately. This stab was as fast as lightning. It struck and killed almost the moment the shadow appeared. It seemed that he did not intend to leave Yilin any chance to counterattack, so that he could succeed with one blow. Shadow gliding? Yilin's eyes narrowed. I didn't expect to see the skill here. The telekinetic perception that is unlocked in advance can be regarded as a plug-in at this level. Within the scope of perception, every bit of change is in the perception and cannot be escaped. In an instant, Yilin crushed the card with his backhand when the military thorn attacked, and the dark red short knife stood with the military thorn without any fancy. The two knives fought each other, and there was only a crisp ding sound between the two, but they did not engage for too long, and the knives separated at the touch of each other. After the other party fought with Yilin, a trace of surprise flashed in the woman's eyes during the brief contact. She didn't seem to expect that Yilin could block her killer attack in this situation, and she was quite surprised. Since the other party took the initiative to kill him, Yilin had no intention of being polite. Seeing that the woman missed a hit, she escaped instantly and merged into the wall again, turning into a twisted black shadow, quickly sliding on the wall and twisting away. Yilin just raised his hand, predicted the shadow's route, and aimed at the wall. And at the end of the corridor, two men in vests, already dragging a man covered in blood, were walking slowly 20 meters away. No. Who are you? Damn it, you can't do this. I'm a celebrity in Greentown, how much do you want? It's easy to say, easy to say. The man who was dragged along the ground by the two men in vests let out a frightened scream. As the two muscular men dragged him, a sticky blood trail appeared on the ground. Yilin looked down. The screaming man was the same as what he had seen on the old black and white TV, with strangely proportioned facial features, a long grinning mouth, and dark eyes, but when he screamed, he was not much different from ordinary people. The shadows behind the two men in vests squirmed, and a woman emerged from the shadows. Ha, 73, you actually missed it? This is not like your usual style. The man in the vest holding a sledgehammer has strong muscles all over his body, like cast steel, glowing faintly. Such a strong physique is only slightly worse than Suzayasu. It was obviously a sarcastic tone, but the sledgehammer man said it in such a hearty tone, but it made no one feel any disgust at all. The woman known as 73 had a scar on her face that stretched from the corner of her eye, across the bridge of her nose, to her mouth, completely ruining her originally pretty face. But with this scar, it doesn't look too ugly, but makes Ji-san more heroic. It gives the impression of a strong man among women, or a strong man with 2 extra lumps of flesh on his chest. Shut up, 81. It was the remaining man in the vest who spoke. His expression was as hard as a knife, and his face was as cold as ice that could not be melted. He loosened his fists wearing stainless steel gloves, dropped Green at his feet, and stomped on Green's chest. There was a crunching sound from where the poor host was stepped on, and he screamed in pain, making a sound like a slaughtered pig. He was the pig that was killed. Yilin faced the trio from a distance, expressionless. He looked thoughtfully at the Green being trampled under his feet 20 meters away. At this time, the sound of footsteps came from behind Yilin. Xingfei wore white gloves and fought all the way. Although they were here to kill, they actually didn't do much. They just stared at the corpses on the road and felt a little nervous. As soon as he arrived on the fourth floor, Xingfei saw the confrontation between Yulin and the trio. What the hell? What's going on? Xingfei pushed up his glasses, his expression first showed surprise, then solemnity, and then helplessness. That guy's green is that person at his feet. Yulin smiled, probably. Xingfei walked slowly to Yulin's side, staring at the movements of the three people opposite him, not daring to move. After all, the opponent seems to have a large population and has an advantage. And he is fierce and vicious, unlike a weak scumbag. Etc. Xingfei glanced at Yulin again expressionlessly. In terms of ferocious spirits, ours seems to be not bad either. Xingfei felt relieved instantly. Yulin's expression also gave Xingfei a hint that the situation is still under control. Snatch it or not? Xingfei asked. Yulin stared at the opposite side without moving his eyes and asked, "What are you grabbing?" "Boss." Yulin smiled, "Why do you think it's just a boss? Have you ever seen such a weak boss?" Not really." "That's fine then." Xingfei was still a little unwilling. "Are we just going to give up?" Yulin raised her chin slightly but said nothing. While Yulin was having a quick conversation with Xingfei. Opposite. 73, how does it feel? The 73rd general stabbed his backhand behind his back and said in a low voice, "If you can block my one-shot kill when I activate shadow sliding in a hurry, the opponent's agility attribute is definitely not weak. In this level, it is above average. According to the feedback from the army spur, the opponent's strength attributes should be slightly worse than mine." 81 laughed, carried the hammer lightly on his shoulder, and said, 56, the task is almost completed. Why are you asking these questions? Those two boys look quite smart, and they shouldn't do anything stupid. Come on. Even if there is, won't that be the end of it if you smash it to death? In a group of 3, it seems that the smaller the number, the more say they have. 56 pondered for a moment, looking at Yulin from a distance, his eyes flashing, and he didn't know what he was thinking. Yulin suddenly sighed and said, "Forget it. Xingfei. Let's go." After Yulin finished speaking, she turned and left. Xingfei was confused. But Yulin was ready to retreat, so it was naturally impossible for him to stay where he was, otherwise he would fall into a box in a matter of seconds. There would not be such harmony among the apostles. 3 against 1, only a fool would not take action. After Yulin and Xingfei left, 81 did not have any surprises and said with a smile, "Look, they said the other party is smart. Pure power is so unpretentious and boring. Okay, finish the task quickly and go back to wash up and sleep. Before I came in, there were the two ladies are taking a shower in the next room, so going back now can help them relax." 56 looked solemn. No words were spoken. But his actions replaced any words. The next second, he raised his feet high and stamped them down hard. There was only a click, and Green, who was lying on his back, only had time to let out a sharp scream, which suddenly stopped in an instant. His chest was trampled down, and he became silent for a second. Died. This Green is dead. Thanks to the boss of Centipede Jing for opening a trumpet account and giving Poja by a leader. Must be updated. Thanks for the support. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 293. Yulin and Xingfei left the TV station as quickly as possible. Perhaps only he himself can understand the true meaning of that sentence, "forget it." When leaving, Xingfei pushed the frame on the bridge of his nose, still a little unwilling. "Are we leaving like this? If not, Green, let them kill him like this." Yulin smiled slightly, "Don't forget this main mission." The main mission talks about killing Green, but it does not say that you must kill Green yourself. In other words, this can be regarded as a team mission. No matter who kills Green, everyone can complete the task at the same time. It is nothing more than a mission. It's just a different evaluation. What I want is this task evaluation. Xing Fei was heartbroken and very regretful. Oh drank. This guy is quite ambitious, isn't he? Yilin looked at Xing Fei Jiao for a moment. He had already noticed that when Xing Fei came up, he had a pair of pure white gloves on his hands. Although halfway through, Xing Fei had quietly hidden his gloves. Those weird gloves are probably related to Xing Fei's ability. And Yilin also noticed that there was a strange mark on the ground in front of the TV station. The texture of the ground gives people a very inconsistent feeling, which is incompatible with the normal ground. Although he said what he said, Xing Fei did not hesitate in his actions, and the two of them returned to the door of Judy's hotel. After calculating the time, Yilin said, "If that Green is really the mission target, then we should have received a notification that the mission has been completed by now." Xing Fei nodded. In fact, he also thought of this and said, "Indeed. So, that Green is not the Green we are looking for. The real main mission cannot be that simple." In the entire TV station, the people they killed had no resistance at all. In fact, there was no one in this town who could even resist at all. Don't you think that as a trial, the overall combat effectiveness of this town is too weak? Xing Fei was stunned. What Yilin said makes sense. And it shouldn't be unnoticed. Suddenly, Xing Fei thought of last night's experience, which scared him so much that he couldn't sleep all night. He frowned and his glasses lenses reflected and lit up. Very wise. Could it be night? Oh, that's right. If I guess correctly, night is the real dangerous time. Yilin came to a conclusion. Xing Fei lowered his head and muttered, "In other words, the real target of the main mission, Green, only appears at night. What the hell is the setting?" But Yilin changed her tone, "It may not be safe during the day." Xing Fei slowly typed a question mark. Yilin smiled, "That woman has assassination-type abilities. Pay attention to the shadows around you." Xing Fei was so frightened that his spine ran cold, and he was feeling cold. Assassination. As he spoke, Xing Fei subconsciously looked at the shadow behind him. After staring for a while, he saw that the shadow was not twisting around strangely, and then he whispered, "Isn't that serious? Didn't we provoke them? Oh, who knows?" After the two returned to Judy's hotel, Judy extended a warm welcome to Yilin and invited her to come inside. Yilin politely said that she was tired and in poor condition and needed to rest. Judy instantly understood that men always get tired sometimes. So Judy vaguely expressed regret. At this moment, Yilin remembered the painting that was torn into two pieces. Starry sky. Then he asked Judy, "Does your son like painting very much?" Judy pouted. "I feel that it would be a bit embarrassing for this man to mention his son at this time." But Judy still nodded, "I like him, but I don't know what he is drawing all day long. He is weird, and he doesn't like to make friends. By the way, how do you know?" "Guess." Haha. After saying that, Yilin walked upstairs. After not sleeping all night, and having been busy for a while during the day, Yilin felt a little sleepy, so she called Bai Xiaoi out and watched the room while she squinted her eyes and took a nap on the bed. Although his attribute values are much higher than those of ordinary humans, he is still a human being after all, and humans cannot avoid eating and sleeping. When the situation is unclear, for the sake of safety, it is safer to let Bai Xiaoi keep an eye on it. After squinting for a while, Yilin woke up in a daze. Seeing that his spiritual energy had been consumed a lot, he put Bai Xiaoi away and quietly restored his spiritual energy. In a daze, he remembered that he seemed to have a dream while sleeping. But after waking up, Yilin couldn't remember anything. Yilin felt refreshed. When I went downstairs, I happened to see Judy in all her glory, dressed up and ready to go out. Yulin was stunned and couldn't help but ask, "Judy, do you want to go out?" Judy rolled her eyes at Yulin. "I hate it, and it's not because of you that you make people stand up or down." But naturally she wouldn't say what was in her heart, so she casually said, "Go to the neighbor's house for a visit." From the perspective of small-town residents, everyone is a neighbor. Anyway, the town is small and there is nothing wrong with it. "Where's the hotel?" "Oh, anyway, there are no other guests except you. By the way, I heard that something happened at the TV station, so don't run around. It would be bad if you think you are a suspicious person." Andy thought of this and kindly reminded him. "Clear." Yulin agreed. "They are suspicious people." After Judy left, Yulin had nothing to do, so she rummaged around behind the counter to see if she could find any clues. At this time, Yulin raised her head again and looked at the lucky totem named Green hanging on the wall. After thinking about it, Yulin took out the blood jasmine while no one was around and stabbed the totem hard. Broken. There is an extra hole in the totem. But nothing else special happened. No surprises. In fact, to be honest, Yulin hoped that something would happen if the knife was struck. After all, the start of this copy is a bit dull. It was so bland that Yulin was not used to it. Yulin nodded, looking as usual, and put away the knife. Toot toot. At this time, there was a blaring horn outside. "Oh, here it comes." A child with brown curly hair walked into the hotel carrying a school bag. The little boy took a closer look and found a strange and unkind-looking man standing where Judy usually was. He was stunned for a moment, and then asked timidly, "Zoo, where is Judy?" "Your mother said she went to a neighbor's house." "Oh." Alan nodded. It was indeed Judy's style to run out to play at this time. Thinking of this, Alan walked into the house on the first floor alone, sat down at the dining table silently, took out an unfinished painting and a box of crayons from his school bag, and started painting seriously. Swish swish. It was quiet. In the whole hotel, it seemed that the only sound left was the sound of Alan's young hands holding the crayon tightly and scratching it hard on the paper. In fact, Seeing Faye's snoring could be heard upstairs from time to time, but Yulin selectively ignored it. Swish swish. Alan is still painting. To be honest, Alan really has no talent for drawing. Yulin stood silently behind Alan without saying a word. He looked at it for a long time and racked his brains, and then he could barely see that what Alan drew with a brush should be three people. A woman, a child, a man. There's something wrong with the proportions. The head is so big and protruding. Normally, at first glance, it would be difficult to think of a person. To describe it as a big-headed monster might be more appropriate. No wonder Judy said her son's paintings were weird. This comment is very pertinent and contains no moisture. Alan carefully finished drawing the big-headed monster. After thinking for a while, he drew two exaggerated and distorted smiles on the faces of the woman and the child. Knock off. Alan breathed a sigh of relief and looked at his work with satisfaction. He even wiped the non-existent sweat from his forehead with his hands stained with various colors of crayons, as if doing so would make him feel harder and harder. Judy's not back yet, Alan said to himself. He turned around and found someone standing behind him. He was so frightened that his hair stood up and he screamed. But soon, Alan spread out his hands vigorously, assumed the posture of a hen protecting its chicks, and protected the painting he finally drew behind his back, as if protecting his own child. You, when did you come? It's been a long time. Yulin smiled and tried to look more kind. The painting is good. Really? Alan's eyes lit up. Judy always says I'm not good at painting. That's because she has no vision. Alan nodded subconsciously, then looked at Yulin with vigilance, shook his head and said, Don't say that about Judy, Judy is not a bad person. Oh, good boy. Yilin touched Alan's brown curly hair. Alan subconsciously wanted to avoid it, but for some reason, when he wanted to avoid it, the hand was already rubbing up. Alan didn't notice the other party's malice and couldn't avoid it, so he had no choice but to accept the other party's actions. But this uncle said that I am good at painting? After thinking about it this way, Alan was no longer so entangled. Is my painting really good? When I think about it again, this strange uncle who looks a little scary is not so scary anymore. Seeing that the vigilance in the child's eyes had faded a bit, Yilin was very satisfied with her communication skills, so she smiled and asked, "What's your name?" "Alan." "Alan, what you drew is a family of 3. Alan perked up when he talked about his paintings. He didn't seem to care about the fact that the strange man in front of him was a stranger. He pointed hard at the flat painting on the table, pointed at the woman in a skirt with red lips, and said, "This is Judy." He quickly pointed to the short child in the middle, "This is Alan." When he pointed his finger at the adult whose face was not drawn, he hesitated and did not speak. Yilin was silent for a moment. Although she felt that she was a bit cruel, for the sake of information, she still asked, "Is he your father?" Alan pursed his thin lips tightly, and twisted the corners of the table with his fingers, without twisting. After a while, Alan whispered, "He is green." Yilin's pupils shrank suddenly. At the same time, somewhere in Greentown, a private house. It was a mess inside. A man fell in a pool of blood, and his body was crushed into a pie shape. Inside the house, 56 and 73, a man and a woman, were smoking silently on the sofa next to the corpse. Next to him, the strong 81 was lying on a woman covered in scars, like an engine, the piston roared and spiraled into the sky. Bang 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 bang. The woman's screams became weaker and weaker, and suddenly she screamed and was completely silent. "Ah, why is it broken? Isn't this bone too strong to withstand the torment?" In the corner, from beginning to end, a girl in a white dress witnessed her father being smashed with a hammer and her mother being beaten to death. Her eyes were bloodshot and full of fear. Suddenly, using all her strength, she struggled to get up from the corner and fled out of the house. 81 looked at the girls running back and didn't care. He laughed and got up from the twisted body under him. He ran away. 56 had a sullen face, pressed the cigarette butt hard onto the wet and sticky meat cake on the ground, and stubbed it out. 81, to be honest, I have always disliked your taste. 73 raised his hand with a cold expression, agree. Tisk, 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 you don't understand. The more experienced you are with this thing, the better. Whoever uses it will know the beauty of a young woman. As for a young girl, she still looked confused when you slapped her butt. Unfortunately, as the strength and attributes increase, as you get higher and higher, there are not many people who can withstand the torment. Oh, by the way, 73, you are a woman, you really don't understand. Hee, I'm going to take a bath. When I finish, we will discuss how to complete the main task. After saying that, Bae grinned, showed a hearty smile, hummed an unknown ditty, and walked towards the bathroom. Hearing this, the corners of 73's mouth raised slightly. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, Bai Xueshi. Chapter 294. 81 took a bath comfortably. He didn't even wipe himself, and came out of the bathroom with his butt naked, still dripping with water. The 2 corpses on the ground had already lost their temperature. Suddenly, 81 frowned, flicked his wrist, and put the hammer on his shoulder. In the living room, A man and a woman were lying on the sofa respectively, sleeping deeply, breathing weakly. 81 looked around cautiously, but found nothing unusual. What the hell? Why did you fall asleep? 81 shook the two of them awake vigorously, laughing and cursing. 73 and 56 opened their eyes in a daze. The moment they opened their eyes, a hint of murderous intent flashed through their eyes, and they reached out to 81 at the same time. Snap, snap. It's me. 81 helplessly slapped away the hands extended by the two men. 56 and 73 looked at each other, with a hint of surprise in each other's eyes. Why, we fell asleep. 73 questions. 56 shook his head slowly. 81 casually took out a piece of clean clothes and put them on, and said, "Who knows you guys? You didn't even dare to sleep last night. Maybe you were too tired. Speaking of which, I've been struggling for a long time and I'm a little sleepy." After saying that, Bae let out a long yawn and looked extremely sleepy. Indeed. Because they were worried about something happening during the trial last night, the three of them squatted together and took turns keeping watch. None of them slept well and seemed to be in poor spirits. 73 turned his head. Looking at the dirty things that 81 was throwing around, he did not hide the disgust on his face. 81 smiled, "This is a good thing, 73, you won't know it until you try it." Tired of living, 73 asked coldly, and turned his palm over, and the military thorn appeared in his hand. "That's enough." 56 held down the murderous 73 and said helplessly, "Now is not the time for joking. 73 and 81, please put your things away." Humph. 73 snorted coldly, restrained his murderous intent, and put away the general's stab. 81 put on his clothes with a playful smile, seemingly not caring about the killing intent emanating from his teammates just now. What to do with the woman who ran away? What does it matter? Didn't you stop me? 81 laughed loudly. The worst case scenario is to kill them all. This town is really not that difficult at the moment. Speaking of missions. 56's expression suddenly condensed, a gloomy light flashed across his eyes, and he whispered, "It's not difficult." Haha, 81, if it's really not difficult, why haven't we completed the main mission yet? Obviously, that green is dead. 73 silently changed the general's thorn from his right hand to his left hand, silently. 81 was speechless for a moment. Right now. 73 raised her chin slightly, remembering the scene on the TV station where she faced off against the other two apostles. She thought of the look in the eyes of that ordinary-looking man when he faced the three of them. She thought about it carefully and saw that there was no fear, no anger, and no anger in the man's eyes at that time. More like regret. What are you regretting? When he said forget it, Chi-san also thought that the man chose to give up out of helplessness. But looking back now, it doesn't seem that simple. That person. 73 said suddenly. When 56 heard this, he frowned and asked in a slightly hoarse voice, "Who?" "That person on the TV station seems to know something." 73 expressed his speculation without hiding anything. 56 was completely silent. 81 smiled, this smile, like the sunshine in July, so dazzling. I saw him on his shoulder, turning the huge hammer vigorously in a circle, and said, "Go and ask, you will know." At the same time. In the town of Green. Devils, they, are demons. The girl panicked and ran stumbling down the road. In her mind, the horrific image lingered in her mind like a nightmare. Those three people, those ugly organs, those cold smiles, and those bloodthirsty expressions were crazily twisted in the girl's mind, and gradually evolved into three unsightly monsters. This kind of scene, where parents are killed casually, is a tragic scene that can destroy the mind no matter who it is. What's more, she is just an inexperienced girl. The girl's running pace became slower and slower, slower and slower. For some reason, the more scared she became, the more frightened she became, the heavier her eyelids felt. Sleepy. Very sleepy. Very scary. They are demons. Demon. The girl suddenly fell on the roadside. Fell asleep. Yilin walked to the edge of the town. In the sky, outside the town, and the entire world seemed to be immersed in a substance like fog. It was as if this small town was completely isolated from the outside world because of this strange thick fog. Yilin stared at the thick fog and did not rush into it rashly. Judy once said that Greentown has no tourist line at all. So what happened to the bus when they came? Yilin remained silent. I don't know how much time passed. The sky gradually darkened. He turned around and walked back the way he came. There was no one else on the road. Yilin came to the square. Only then did Yilin notice that the ancient clock in the square also had a lucky totem that looked like a bat. That totem is called green. It seems that the whole town is revolving around green. Greentown. Grim totem. A host named Green. Green Festival. Their main mission, kill Grim. Who is Green? Or is it just a name? So who should they kill during the mission? Yilin lowered his head to think, and went through the initial reminder of the mission over and over in his mind, not daring to miss anything. The initial mission prompt this time seems to be more concise and clear than before. At first glance, there isn't much weirdness about it. But just because it's not too weird, it actually seems even weirder. While thinking, Yilin's eyes narrowed. He slowly reached out his hand and rubbed it a few times on the old clock. Is it an illusion? Or is the clock broken? Right now. Far away. A girl in a white dress stumbled towards the side. There was no one around, and the girl who suddenly appeared in the distance seemed extremely abrupt in Yilin's eyes. Just like a bit of thick ink on white paper, or a bit of bright red on a little angel, it's hard not to notice. Yilin was alert and stepped forward, only to find that the girl's steps were messy, her eyes were empty and she had lost focus. Uncle, uncle, uncle. Just when Yilin was about to step forward to find out. Suddenly, a familiar yet unfamiliar voice came to my ears. Base. Yilin opened her eyes again. The moment she opened her eyes, there was a trace of confusion in Yilin's eyes, but it soon became clear. Alan came over and timidly stretched out his hand in front of Yilin's eyes. Uncle, why are you asleep? I fell asleep. When? Yilin asked with a surprised expression. While Alan was painting. Painting. At this moment, Yilin felt like her memory was fragmented after a hangover. Normally, since his mental attributes are so high, this shouldn't happen. Yilin tried hard to recall what happened. He looked at the painting on the table. It's still the same threesome with indescribable painting skills, the big-headed mother and the small-headed son, with a faceless father beside them. By the way, Alan, why did you say he was green? Yilin pointed at the faceless man in the crayon drawing and asked calmly. Alan thought for a while. Originally he was unwilling to say so much to the stranger in front of him. But who taught him how to appreciate Alan's paintings? Those who know how to appreciate Alan's paintings are probably not bad people. Thinking of this, Alan loosened his fingers from the crayon slightly, his brows widened, and said, Judy said, I don't have a father. If I do, it can only be green. Why green? Because green is a symbol of luck. Everyone in the town knows green. The green you are talking about is the one from the TV station. Alan shook his head. It's not this green, he's the fake green. So, where is the real Grim? Alan doesn't know. Alan shook his head vigorously again. He carefully planned to put the painting away, with a bright and flawless smile on his face. When Judy comes back, let her see that Alan's painting has improved again. Boy, you might be disappointed. Yilin said silently in her heart. Placing the clues of the main mission on a child, he is indeed overthinking. However, he always felt that something was wrong. Huh. Xin Fei just woke up and came down from upstairs. After searching for a long time, he finally found Yilin in Judy's house by a familiar route. And Alan. And the door was unlocked. Xin Fei rubbed his sleepy eyes, glanced at the painting on the table inadvertently, gave a thumbs up, and said casually, "Who painted this painting? These 3 vegetable seedlings are very good. They are very expressive. Vegetables, vegetable seedlings. Yilin." Alan pursed his lips and cried instantly. "Cry loudly." Xin Fei looked confused. "What's wrong? Did I say something wrong?" Yilin sighed and patted Xin Fei on the shoulder. "My reasonable guess is that you must not be married yet. Well, no, you must not have had a girlfriend." When Xin Fei heard this, he was slightly startled. "How did you see it? Is it so obvious?" Yilin shook his head and looked at Xin Fei with a pitiful look in his eyes, without further explanation. Finally it was evening. "Judy hasn't come back yet." Alan was tired of crying, but he still silently put away the painting that Xin Fei complained about as a vegetable seedling, ate some food briefly, then lay down on the bed and fell asleep. It was not until later that Xin Fei vaguely understood the reason for Alan's crying. Don't blame him. At first glance, it does look like a vegetable seedling. However, this is not the point. They were here for a cruel trial, not just to comfort the children. It would be fine if they cried. Xin Fei held his breath and concentrated, not daring to exhale, as if he was afraid of disturbing something. Yilin looked out the window quietly, waiting for the changes in this town. According to Judy, during the 7 days of the Green Festival, all kinds of strange things will happen at night. No matter what weird things happen, they will happen. Both of them are waiting. Until late at night. Duh, 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 duh. In the silent hotel, strange footsteps sounded out of nowhere from somewhere in the hotel. In the hotel, Judy has not returned from a night trip. Alan fell into a deep sleep. Yilin and Xin Fei are on the 3rd floor. There was no sound of opening the door. But the footsteps seemed to appear out of thin air inside the hotel without any warning. The moment they heard the footsteps clearly, the existence that made the sound was already at their feet. Coming. Xin Fei and Yilin looked at each other. The two of them didn't talk nonsense. Yilin quietly opened the door, followed the direction of the footsteps, and quietly went downstairs. In the dark, Xin Fei focused his gaze and pointed to Judy's room. Da-da-da. The footsteps suddenly stopped inside, motionless, and did not cause any more movement. Yilin lowered his head, turned his hands, and found the knife in his hand. The meaning was self-evident. Xin Fei didn't hesitate, he didn't hide it and put on the pure white gloves with textured back. The two entered the house. Yilin turned on Shadow Follower and completely blended into the darkness. After completely letting go of his senses, Yilin quickly discovered the source of the footsteps and sneaked directly towards Alan's room. The moment Yilin passed by Xin Fei was startled. It was obvious that Yilin was beside him, but it was not until Yilin passed by that Xin Fei came back to his senses. The feeling Yilin gave him at that moment was like a ghost, and he could hardly detect any trace of her existence. Obviously, he always knew that Yilin was nearby. But Xin Fei unconsciously ignored Yilin's existence. What a terrifying agile apostle. Is he really good at assassination? Well, he's so insidious. Xin Fei silently speculated on Yilin's abilities. Yilin moved gently and opened Alan's door. No lock. Xin Fei stuck his head out from the crack in the door. I saw a man beside Ailu's bed, with his back to the door and face to Alan, lowering his head silently. Although it was just a back view, he looked like a middle-aged man. He was wearing an old floral shirt that had been washed white, loose brown trousers on his lower body, and a pair of old, faded but clean leather shoes on his feet. Suddenly, the man seemed to be aware of the movement behind him. He turned his head sharply. The moment the man turned his head, Xing Fei was so frightened that he pushed the door open. His scalp was numb and there was a cold air on his back. For a moment, I was so frightened that I couldn't move at all, as if I was frozen in place, unable to move. Ah! Yilin smiled. No wonder Xing Fei was so frightened. Because that man. No face. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Xueshi. Chapter 295. It's that cabbage. 1 second later. Xing Fei was so frightened by the face without facial features that his soul almost left his body and returned to his original position. His lips trembled slightly, and he finally managed to squeeze out a sentence from between his teeth. In a daze, he seemed to understand something. When Xing Fei was shocked, Yilin chuckled lightly, raised his knife and killed the faceless man. Laugh. Yilin didn't use any fancy skills. This knife went straight to the faceless man's neck, severing his throat. When Yilin took action, Xing Fei's face darkened. After all, he was also an apostle who had experienced hundreds of battles. After being surprised, Xing Fei's hands wearing pure white gloves slammed towards the metal frame beside him. On the back of the glove, the circular texture flashed, and the metal frame was decomposed and reorganized by the light in the blink of an eye. 2 exquisite daggers appeared in Xing Fei's hands. Refined. But just when Xing Fei had time to forge a weapon out of thin air, Yilin's knife chopped off the faceless man's head without any features, as smoothly as chopping melons and vegetables. The imaginary scene of violent blood flow did not appear. The head rolled to an unknown place in the darkness. The faceless man who had lost his head seemed to not feel any pain at all, and grabbed Yilin with his backhand. The 2 hands suddenly stretched and twisted, and their 5 fingers turned into sharp claws, tearing towards Yilin's head and chest respectively. Although melee combat is not Yilin's strong point, before Yilin's spiritual attributes grew to this point, most of them relied on a handful of blood jasmine to deal with monsters. As long as the monster is too outrageous, Yilin's melee ability can prevent him from being at a disadvantage to a certain extent. Yilin snorted softly, and in an instant, he flew up and kicked the faceless man. Ah no, now it has become the headless man's chest, and with the repulsive force of the kick, it suddenly bounced back. Go. Yilin now has the dual attributes of strength and sensitivity, and can even play a guest role as a melee apostle, and will not be easily spotted by others. At the very least, Xing Fei so far still thinks that Yilin is an out-and-out agile side apostle. After all, the fighting method Yilin has shown so far, besides using the knife or using the knife, has no sense of violation. Yilin's strength attribute is not weak either. But when this kick hit the headless man's chest, the headless man didn't move at all. The terrible shock force was transmitted along the soles of his feet, giving Yilin the illusion that he had kicked on a reinforced alloy plate. Let me. Since he is killing monsters, Xing Fei has nothing to be afraid of. As long as he can encounter them, they are monsters. As long as it's a monster, it has a health bar. As long as there is a health bar, even a god might be able to kill him. The apostle's idea is so simple and crude. Compared with the various deceptive traps in the trial, the monsters that can be killed by the apostles are actually cuter. Immediately, Xing Fei became proud and prepared to fight with Yilin for 300 rounds with the headless man in front of him. Go quickly. Walk. Xing Fei rolled up his sleeves for a moment, and his expression suddenly froze. When Yilin saw Xing Fei holding 2 small daggers with an expression ready to move, and quickly passing by Xing Fei, she kindly reminded him. In the narrow room, the 2 of them couldn't move. As soon as Yilin broke through the door, the headless man couldn't catch up with Yilin, so it could only fly towards Xing. On the face without facial features, Two faint black lights appeared in the position of the eyes, which was extremely frightening. The two arms are as soft as boneless, swinging like propellers, like two soft tentacles, which makes people think a lot. I'm so imaginative. Xingfei didn't even have time to say hum at this moment, so he slammed the door tightly before the headless ghost pounced. At the critical moment, Xingfei activated his ability again, and a light flashed near the seam of the door. The door frame and the door were welded together and could no longer be opened. He skillfully welded the door shut and then slowly breathed a sigh of relief. That headless man feels a bit fierce. Etc. Headless man? Something seems wrong? Xingfei recalled the last scene that came into his eyes. The breath he had just let go suddenly lifted up again and went straight to the Tianling cap. It turned into boundless cool air and blew out from his mouth. That faceless head has grown again. No wonder he saw that terrifying face again just now. Yulin saw Xingfei welding the door to death and looked at it from a distance, thoughtfully. What the hell is this monster? Does it look a bit like the cabbage that kid drew? Xingfei gasped slightly and was in shock. In fact, the monster itself is not scary, but if a good person suddenly turns his head and there is no face on his head, this will be caught off guard, and normal people will be frightened. Just like no matter how many supernatural movies you watch, as long as there are new and unexpected scenes, you can still scare people and make your adrenaline soar. Yilin was silent for a moment, then said, "Be more confident. Remove the word a bit like dot." "No way." Xingfei subconsciously grasped the brand new dagger, and a ridiculous idea flashed through his mind. He suddenly remembered that although the time in the room was short, there was a lot of movement. That boy, who was not very good at painting, didn't even react at all and was still lying on the bed soundly asleep. This situation is extremely scary to think about. Yilin nodded. Whether it is the stars last night or this faceless man, it is very likely that they were born because of Alan. How is it possible? No. It's really possible. Xingfei said something subconsciously first, and then immediately shook his head, his eyes flickered, and he refuted it. In trials, anything is possible. The more outrageous something is, the more likely it is to happen. And Yulin suddenly looked at the door that seemed to be welded tightly, and then said, "I have reason to suspect that this door can't stop that guy at all." The words just fell. A hand passed through the door strangely and stretched out from behind the door. Through the wall. Xingfei's pupils shrank suddenly and he cried out. Without hesitation, he ran directly towards where Yilin was. He looked back. The headless man mysteriously passed through the door and appeared in front of the two of them. In the darkness, two faint black lights flashed on the face of the faceless man, blending into the dark background. Xingfei spoke very fast and murmured to himself, "No entity? No, it's impossible, but just now, you kicked him clearly. Could it be an uncertain quantum state? When the sense of existence of the quantum state is weak enough, it can penetrate everything, and when the sense of existence in the quantum state is strong enough, no force can destroy the existence of the headless monster. Isn't it too buggy? There is simply no solution to this." Yilin looked at Xingfei who was chattering strangely. What the hell is he talking about? Quantum mechanics? Follow me. Yilin already had an idea. Without saying a word, he rushed upstairs. Upstairs? Isn't it like being caught in a urn? But Xingfei looked at the door and then at the stairs. Gritting his teeth, he finally decided to trust Yilin's judgment. After all, this guy seemed to have discovered something. Etc. It seems like I am the spiritual one. But at this time, Xingfei didn't care too much and followed Yilin's footsteps, all the way to the third floor. The faceless man seemed to have poor vision because he had no eyes, and his movements were slightly slow. When Yilin and Xingfei completely disappeared in front of him, he swayed and walked towards the third floor step by step. Yilin returned to her room. Xin Fei followed him in. In this intense situation, no one mentioned the topic of it's very awkward for a man and two men to live together in the same room. Close the door. Xin Fei understood, clapped his hands, and the texture on his gloves flashed, completely welding the door shut. Although Xin Fei also knew that doing so would not be able to stop the guy's footsteps. The faceless man was a strange monster that could pass through walls. But welding the door shut made Xin Fei feel a lot more secure. What now? Huh? What are you doing lying down? Unexpectedly, I turned around. Then he saw Yilin lying directly on the bed, closing her eyes, looking calm and waiting for death. Duh, 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 duh. Outside the door. The footsteps of the faceless man have been heard. He came. Xin Fei was so frightened that he quickly ran to the window, wanting to visually test how much health he would lose by jumping from the third floor and whether he would die. But it didn't matter if he didn't look at it. This look made Xin Fei froze in place. In the dark night. In the mist. The shadows of countless huge creatures vaguely appeared. There are fish floating in the air. A four-legged monster that towers into the sky like a skyscraper. There were swarms of locusts buzzing by. There are countless swaying butterflies. Deep in the mist, all kinds of weird-shaped plants seemed to grow, twisting and turning. The spectacle in front of him made Xin Fei's mouth widen involuntarily, as if it was like a dream. Those weird creatures and plants, like slides, disappeared quickly as soon as they flashed before Xin Fei's eyes, or suddenly appeared in another corner, which was very mysterious. Ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. Behind. The footsteps are closer. Coming. Coming. Hummed. That guy is here. Xin Fei quickly came to his senses from the strange sights outside, not daring to delay any longer. He rolled up his sleeves and prepared to jump down before running away. With his ability, it shouldn't be a problem to build a staircase or something. As long as there are enough materials, Xin Fei dares to try refining even if it is a building. Huh, huh, huh. On the bed. Yilin, who was sleeping with her eyes closed, was already snoring slightly. A hand, silently, passed through the door that Xin Fei had welded shut, and passed directly in. This guy is finished. Xin Fei clapped his palms, and the texture on the back of his gloves flashed. He turned back to take one more look at the bed, and at the same time, he paid a second of silence to the guy who didn't know whether to live or die and was still able to sleep before he died. But just after Xin Fei turned around, Yilin, who was lying in bed and snoring, unexpectedly disappeared. Faceless man, raise your head to see me. Xin Fei was ready to jump down. And right now. In the dark. A red short knife stretched out from behind the faceless man silently, and split the faceless man in half with one blow. In the blink of an eye. All the movements of the faceless man suddenly froze, and with a sudden knife, it was torn from the middle, turned into black powder, and fell to the ground. No, no more. Xin Fei's eyes widened. Yilin silently put away the knife. He curiously looked at his palms and Xin Fei in front of him. How did you kill it? Yilin smiled and said. In a dream. In a dream. Xin Fei was confused when he heard this. Yilin looked at Xin Fei with strange eyes. What are you doing with one foot out? Jumping off the building? What's so hard to think about? Xin Fei looked down and remembered that Agio was straddling the window. He smiled awkwardly and calmly, and silently took his foot back. Right now. The pool of black powder on the ground, like a corpse, suddenly condensed into a strange human head. Alan, ah, my Alan, AI. Xin Fei's back felt cold again. But the faceless man only pretended to be dead for a few seconds before turning into powder again and disappearing. Xin Fei stepped forward cautiously. He rubbed the powder with his feet, and after making sure that the powder would no longer bounce around, he breathed a sigh of relief and asked, "What is going on? All the attacks just now were ineffective on him. Why? Why is it working all of a sudden? Wait, is this your ability?" Xingfei looked at Yilin with surprise. Yilin shook her head. "Actually, you can do it too." "Yo. You'll know after you sleep." "Xingfei, what the hell? Who are you fooling?" 10 minutes later. Xingfei fell into a deep sleep, snoring heavily. In the blink of an eye, Xingfei, who was sleeping soundly in bed, mysteriously disappeared. When he came to his senses, he had appeared next to Yilin. Outside the window, the distorted scene flickers on and off. Various strange beasts are looming in the thick fog. Xingfei looked at his body curiously. He didn't know if it was an illusion. He always felt that looking at his limbs and palms gave him the illusion that they would be distorted at any time. But upon closer inspection, that illusion quickly disappeared. "Am I dreaming?" Yilin smiled slightly and explained, "Actually, ever since I saw Ilu's painting, I started to wonder what the true face of this green festival is." "How many cabbages?" Xingfei asked. "No, it's the first painting. The first painting Alan painted was of a starry sky, but Judy accidentally tore it in half. As the saying goes, think about it every day and dream about it at night, because I cared too much about his paintings, so when I was sleeping, this scene turned into Alan's dream. No matter, it's the stars within reach. It's still the sky that is torn apart deep in the thick fog. In fact, they all reflect Alan's dreams. A child's imagination is far richer than that of an adult. In his dream, the stars are not a cosmic phenomenon, but an existence that is within reach. That's why the weird phenomenon appeared on the first night." "Ah, this?" Xingfei was dumbfounded listening to Yilin's analysis. But he couldn't refute it. "It's just that this conclusion is too weird, too shocking, and beyond the imagination of normal people. Dreams become reality? Is this ability too outrageous?" Yilin didn't care whether Xingfei could accept this reality or not. She lowered her head and muttered to herself, as if telling herself, "Alan has always been curious about who his father is, but Judy has never told him. However, maybe even Judy doesn't know who Alan's father is. In short, in Alan's imagination, his father should be the image in the painting. But he didn't know what his father looked like, so the part of his face could only be left blank. He probably didn't expect that the image of this faceless man would appear in his dreams." Although Xingfei found it incredible, he still followed Yilin's idea, held up his glasses, the lenses lit up loudly, and said in a deep voice, "In other words, this trial will turn Alan's dream into reality?" "No, then we are in a dream now? Damn it, you and I are actually talking in a dream. The purpose of this trial is the setting too outrageous." Yilin nodded first, but then shook his head. "No, what you said is not accurate. In fact, the setting of turning dreams into reality is not this trial, but this Greentown. It is precisely because of this strange phenomenon in Greentown that the tower chose this place as the trial scene." Xingfei thought about it for a while and felt that it made sense. He shrugged helplessly. "You are right to say that. Wait, according to your thinking, the reason why you were able to kill the faceless man easily just now was because you entered in the dream. He is in the same dimension as the faceless man, so the unkillable faceless man has become a little monster that can be killed." Yilin nodded, agreeing with Xingfei's words. At this time, Yilin noticed Xingfei's feet and was subconsciously rubbing the black dust on the ground. He couldn't help but sigh and reminded, to Alan, "The body of the faceless man you stepped on with your feet should be considered his father." Xingfei's face remained expressionless for a moment, and he silently moved his feet away. "Think about it." Xingfei still has questions that have not yet been answered. He frowned, looked around, and couldn't help but ask, if it is the trial world, If you think about it carefully, there is nothing surprising. But what I can't figure out is that if we talk about the space we are in now, dreams and the reality will overlap, and the creatures born in the dream will be reflected in the real green town, but why do our bodies disappear after we fall asleep? Actually, it's not difficult to explain. Yilin smiled. Normally, when you are dreaming, do you find that you are actually dreaming? Generally speaking not. So, if you see your sleeping body in a dream, you will wake up that you are actually dreaming, right? Xin Fei's pupils shrank suddenly, and he suddenly thought of a possibility. Wait, according to this, our bodies in reality are not in a completely defenseless state. Yilin thought for a moment and said, it's possible, but it's also possible that it's not. After all, reality and dream green town overlap. It can be said that this place is both reality and dream. Since the two overlap, it is more likely that they are in the same world. There will not be two me and you. Unless you wake up from the dream. Xin Fei thought about it and felt that this twist and turn was getting more and more headache. He couldn't help but smiled bitterly and said, this is really too complicated. If I continue to think about it, my brain will explode. Haha, it's actually not that complicated. Just treat this place as another world. The monsters in the dream are projected into reality. If you want to cause harm to these monsters, it is only possible if you are in the same dream. Okay, Xin Fei rubbed his painful temples, just treat it like a normal monster fight. Xin Fei is also used to the dream state. Sometimes it's curved, sometimes it's straight, and it's twisted all around. Where are we going now? Do the mission, Yilin said matter-of-factly. Kill Green. If not. Nonsense. But where is the Green? Yilin looked at Xin Fei strangely. Xin Fei was struck by Yilin's strange eyes and shrank his neck subconsciously. What do you mean by that look? In fact, what Yilin wanted to say was, why the hell can't you use your own brain to think? But Yilin finally decided not to say anything, so as not to hurt the harmony. Walking around, there are some places that I care about. Yilin said as she prepared to leave. Xin Fei suddenly lowered his head and stared at the black ash on the ground. After a moment of silence, he said, the faceless man seemed to have spoken in the last moment. Yilin remained silent. Do you think it's possible that this faceless man was created in Alan's dream as Alan's father? Just now in Alan's room downstairs, this monster mistakenly thought we were going to harm us. Alan, that's why you attacked us. In the room, the atmosphere solidified again. I do not know how long it has been. Yilin shook her head and said softly, let's go. Xin Fei quickly followed. None of them mentioned it again. But it seemed that the faceless man who had only been a father for a few minutes had unknowingly left a shadow in a corner of their hearts. When passing by Alan's room, Yilin and Xin Fei made sure that Alan was still sleeping. The overlap between dreams and reality is very strange. If he hadn't experienced it himself, Xin Fei might have found it hard to believe that this kind of thing would happen to him. After leaving Judy's hotel, Xin Fei couldn't help but express his thoughts. It seems that the biggest danger in this trial is the monster created in Alan's dream. But as long as this is discovered, the difficulty of the trial will actually be it's not that outrageous. On the contrary, Xin Fei's conclusion was rejected by Yilin at the speed of light. Don't you think that this child Alan is special and only Alan's dreams will become reality? When Xin Fei heard this, his eyes narrowed and he said subconsciously, you mean? The problem is not Alan, but the entire Greentown. It is a special phenomenon in Greentown that turns everyone's dreams into reality. And how much malice can a child have in his heart? Even if there is, it's nothing more than a prank. Yilin paused for a moment, raised her head, and stared at the night sky. Deep in the night sky, the thick fog twisted and made it impossible to see the end. If someone has terrible resentment in their heart, and this resentment is manifested in a dream in some way. No way. After Yilin's reminder, a terrible speculation suddenly flashed in Seeing Fei's mind. In other words, theoretically, there should be no upper or lower limit to the difficulty of this mission. It may be easy if it is simple, but if it is difficult. Yilin pointed to her head, everything is based on imagination. What's more, we still don't know who the green we really want to kill is. But since I learned that there is such a strange phenomenon of reality and dream combining in Green Town, the prompts for the main mission have become more obvious. The two of them coincided with each other and quickly recalled the initial task prompts. Everything is available here. Where do you dare to use the description "it has everything"? Only, in dreams. In the dream, there is everything. That is to say, the Grim we are asked to kill in the main mission is hidden in the dream world. The two quickly left Judy's hotel. Shortly after the two left, two figures came from the darkness. It seems a little quiet tonight. Are you all asleep? Maybe it's because we went on a killing spree on the TV station during the day and created an atmosphere of it's dangerous in this small town, so these ordinary people didn't dare to come out. 56 said with helplessness. The two of them were 56 and 81. Of the two of them, one wore stainless steel gloves on both fists, and the other held a huge hammer on his shoulders, walking lightly. A dark shadow swayed strangely on the ground behind the two of them. So, although the physical strength is not worth it on the mental side, sometimes the brain is still very useful. Those two guys probably have some ideas about this main mission that we don't know about. 56 said softly. 73, go up and take a look, take it easy and don't kill him. The shadow on the ground responded softly, then swooped up, pulling out a long shadow on the ground, and disappeared into Judy's hotel in the blink of an eye. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 296. A few minutes later, a reply came from 73. They're not here. The two grown men downstairs looked at each other. Not here? Where did you go? Did they take action? 56 lowered his head and pondered. 81 didn't care too much anymore, picked up the hammer and walked to the hotel. The slender figure of 73 emerged from the shadows, panting slightly. For agility side apostles, the spiritual energy value is not too much, and it is not easy to maintain a skill for a long time. Since the other party was not there, 73 cancelled his skills and stood silently in the corner. There's someone inside. 73 pointed inside the house. Alan was in bed, hugging an old stuffed bear, curled up in the bed, with a satisfied smile on his lips, and he didn't know what sweet dream he was having. In the darkness, the three of them stepped in, and Alan did not wake up from his dream. The three of them stared at Alan for a while. 81 suddenly said, "Did those two guys find any clues and run off to do the task?" 56 thought about the day's experience. Grim on TV. Greentown. Green Festival. Kill Grim. Although the three of them are good at killing, they are not good at solving puzzles. Unfortunately, this trial seems to be the type they are least good at handling. Trouble. 73 complained coldly. As the leader of the three-person team, 56 suddenly smiled, "It doesn't matter, just go find them." Since it is a team task, isn't it normal to unite as one? 81 raised his chin and laughed wildly in the darkness, "That makes sense." Before the three of them became apostles, they had already cooperated in killing countless people. Although it wasn't so far-fetched as to have a clear understanding of each other, the simple exchange allowed the three of them to understand what they were thinking. Finished. 56 and 73, turned around and prepared to leave the hotel. "Wait a minute, what should I do with this little brat?" Bai asked, holding the hammer and pointing at Alan, who was sleeping soundly on the bed. 73 looked at 56. 56 smiled, moved his fingers slightly, and the knuckles of the stainless steel gloves made a clicking sound. This was the sound of cold metal grinding. Whatever. 81 twitched the corner of his mouth. Let me be a villain again? It seems a bit cruel. But, carrying the huge hammer on his shoulder, 81 lifted it with one hand. The shadow cast by the huge hammer in the darkness almost completely buried Alan's peaceful smiling face. I like. Hammer, fall. In their worldview, killing is equivalent to eating. And it's quite fragrant. What's more, they became apostles. This kind of trial, accompanied by death at any time and licking blood on the tip of the knife, made them seem to have found their destination. When they came out of the trial alive for the first time, their mood was not shock, horror, disbelief, or hesitation. Rather, excitement. Ah, the profession of apostle seems to be tailor-made for them. It's as if they were born and destined to exist for the day they become qualified. Ordinary people were suddenly called and became apostles, and they were already enjoying it while they were still in the adaptation period. When ordinary apostles have not had time to learn to ignore life, they are already immersed in the pleasure of wanton plunder in the trial and cannot extricate themselves. Although this blow will only kill an ordinary child, there is no pleasure at all. But it doesn't seem to do any harm. So, it's better to kill him. It seems good to hammer it down and listen for a sound. 81 smiled. Boom. The huge hammer suddenly hit the ground. But 81's pupils suddenly shrank. His hammer actually hit a man in the face. The man under the hammer was wearing an old floral shirt that had been washed white, loose brown trousers on his lower body, and a pair of old but clean leather shoes on his feet. 81 raised the hammer again. The smooth surface of the hammer and the man's bloody face pulled out a long mushy blood streak, as if he was rolling out dough. Something's wrong. 81 frowned and backed away quickly. When did this man who took the initiative to catch the hammer with his face appear? He didn't notice at all. And, normally speaking, can a normal person be able to stand upright on the spot after receiving a blow from him with his face, without even a slight sway in his body? Such a person cannot exist. Unless, the other party is not a human being. There's a situation. 81 used a very short time to sort out the situation in front of him and loudly reminded the two people outside the door. Oops. Something happened on 81. Outside the hotel. When 73 and 56 heard 81's exclamation from inside the room, their whole bodies tensed up and entered a fighting state. Boom. The wall was suddenly blasted with a big hole. Among the broken walls, 81 rushed out with a hammer in hand and many scars all over his body, cursing. Grass. Shadow slide. A ferocious smile flashed across 73's face. Without saying a word, she activated her stealth skill and turned into a dark shadow, moving and shuttling quickly on the ground. 56 clenched his fists. The stainless steel gloves were shining with light. In the dark night, like stars. 73 and 56 are ready to take action. 81 wiped the blood from his face full of depression. Go, don't fight, you can't do it. These words made 56, who was about to punch the unknown monster, slightly startled. Behind 56, the shadow transformed by 73 also trembled. Isn't this the 81 they know? This guy was so fearless that he chose to run away for the first time. 81 seemed to understand what his teammates were thinking, and explained as he ran, there are a lot of monsters in there, monsters that can't be killed by hammering. Finished. From the huge hole opened by the hammer, men who looked nothing special walked out step by step. Those men were uniformly dressed neatly, and their old leather shoes made a clicking sound when they landed on the ground, which looked extremely eerie and strange in the quiet night. None of this matters. 56 and 73 looked at the group of men. Their faces have no eyes, ears, mouth, or nose. They are all faceless people. Even though the three of them were murderous and their hands were stained with countless blood, This strange scene still made 56 and 73 feel their scalps numb. After all, the number of these faceless people is too much. From the hole, one after another kept pouring out, and faceless heads surged in front of the three people. If it were an ordinary monster, that would be fine. But even an 81 hammer can't kill it. Retreat! 56 shouted, the shining light on his fists disappeared instantly, and the three of them ran wildly on the street. But the countless faceless figures seemed to be staring at the three-man team, and their limbs began to twist, roll, and stretch, converging into a colorful torrent in the dark night. The pale face without features seemed to be a strange sea. White wave. If a timid person saw this scene, they might be frightened and faint. What is that? The physical fitness of the three people is far beyond that of ordinary people, and they ran 2 kilometers in one breath. In the dark, they had no time to distinguish the routes around them. 73 suddenly frowned and pointed forward. 56 and 81 looked in the direction pointed by 73. There was a pile of white pieces of meat. A whole lot. Precisely. Not a piece of meat. Upon closer inspection, those white pieces of meat turned out to be 2 human legs, and the human legs were empty, with no other organs or parts. It was like a living person who had been cut in half by some mysterious force, leaving only half of his body naked and running naked. But that's not the scariest thing. The most terrifying thing is that there is a long whip between the legs of the monster with a ghostly appearance. The whip was covered with ferocious barbs, and blood was dripping from the barbs toward the ground. The shapes of these monsters far exceed the upper limit of imagination than the faceless men chasing them behind. Although the monsters looked very weird, the three of them were not very good at it. After a brief moment of surprise, they gritted their teeth and prepared to go in. But right now, 81 had just picked up the hammer, making a whirring sound, and was about to use the windmill, when his expression suddenly froze. In the middle of the group of monsters with 2 legs and 1 whip, a girl in a white dress was sleeping on the ground, motionless. In such a scene, no matter who it is, the first reaction is, that is a dead person. But these three people could tell the difference between the dead and the living at a glance without wasting too much time. The girl looked more like she was asleep. 56 and 73 were shocked and looked at 81 at the same time. They recognized the girl sleeping soundly among the monsters. That was clearly the woman they let go during the day. 81 looked stunned. Mom, mom, mom. Mom, mom, mom. Mother. Mother. Countless monsters with strange shapes were like an ocean. Although they clearly did not have a mouth organ, they made a shrill sound like a ghost from nowhere. They stepped up on 2 legs and ran towards the trio. In the blink of an eye, countless barbed whips instantly overwhelmed the trio. Ah! Monster Central! There were screams of agony. At the same time, Yulin and Xingfei quickly came to the TV station after entering the dream world. What are we doing here? Do not know why. He is obviously the spiritual apostle. But in front of this guy, he seemed too lazy to use his brain. You're obviously an agility player, why are you trying to steal the role of solving puzzles from me, an apostle on the spiritual side? I don't want to show off my dignity in a dignified way. But this feeling of finding clues inexplicably without using your brain, is so delicious. After Xingfei asked, several thoughts flashed through his mind. Isn't there a green on TV? Yulin said casually. But if they killed those 3 guys during the day, didn't they complete the main mission? You also said, it was daytime. Yulin smiled, turned his palm, and blood jasmine appeared in the palm of his hand. The Grim in Greentown is not the Grim we are looking for, but the Grim in the Dream Green. That's not necessarily the case, right? Xingfei was stunned. Yulin paused for a moment, then shook her head. Although I personally don't think this trial will be that simple, it would be unreasonable not to investigate such obvious clues. Is this simple? Who in the right mind would have thought of the strange phenomenon of dreams and reality overlapping? Your imagination in this trial has gone through the roof, okay. Sci-fi complained silently in his heart. The lights in the TV station were dim. Empty. Huh? The body has been disposed of. Sci-fi followed Yulin and discovered something suspicious. Don't forget, this is a dream. Yulin reminded in a low voice. Right. Sci-fi quickly accepted the setting. After all, everything is possible in dreams. Hiss. Swish swish. They just walked into the first floor. Then he discovered that there were bursts of strange noises coming from deep in the darkness. These sounds come from all directions, and seem to come from the ceiling, walls, and underground. They come together and make it difficult to distinguish the source. Sci-fi suddenly became nervous and clenched his fists. Yulin did not stop, but instead sped up, following the structural diagram of the Greentown TV station in her memory, and walked deeper into the darkness. Suddenly, in the corridor, one by one, strange figures slowly walked out. Hiss, ha, hua. Bryce. Susan. Bala L.A. Tired at work. The strange black shadow made strange sounds, echoing in the empty corridor. Among those words, some could barely be identified as the names of certain people, or some boring complaints, but most of them were hoarse syllables without any meaning. What the hell? Don't tell me that these monsters are the residents' dreams. What the hell are these guys thinking about during the day? Do they have nightmares all day long? When he saw the shapes of those monsters clearly, he couldn't help but shout, F***ck. Waves of weak electric current passed from the tip of his hair to the tip of his hair. His scalp was numb and his hair stood up. I saw those monsters, some missing limbs, some with exposed internal organs, some with certain parts exaggeratedly enlarged, and some even flattened into a lump, moving quickly in the direction of the two of them like reptiles on the ground. Click, click, click. The narrow corridor was not suitable for releasing any earth-shattering skills. Yulin held a short knife and tentatively chopped off a person with particularly big eyes in front of him. He found that it could cause damage, and then he confidently entered the group of monsters. One ride is worth 1,000. No confusion value. Yulin thought to himself that no familiar reminder appeared in front of him, but he was not surprised at all. The creatures in the dream are derived from the dreams of the residents of Greentown, and all monsters are nothing but illusions. What surprised Yulin was that Sci-fi was not weak in skills. He held two small daggers and swished at Yulin behind him, making a fortune in silence. Your enhancement is a bit interesting. Yulin took a break from her busy schedule while killing monsters, and said with a smile. Sci-fi's pupils shrank slightly. He immediately noticed that the word Yulin used was strengthening rather than skills. After hesitating for a moment, Sci-fi said helplessly, "You saw it, this is alchemy." It is indeed alchemy. A very niche enhancement. Because the learning threshold is high, few people can master this technology. Yulin nodded and asked no more questions. Asking further would be a bit hurtful. After all, everything about the Apostle's ability is the most important secret to everyone. Sci-fi saw Yulin's quick movements, killing monsters as easily as chopping melons and vegetables. While he was surprised by Yulin's strength, he also had doubts. These monsters do look scary, but are they not that strong? As long as after entering a dream and being able to cause harm to them, no matter how many monsters there are, as long as they are not too outrageous, they will not pose much of a threat. Yulin nodded. No words were spoken. Dreams are actually very mysterious existences. Some people say that dreams represent a person's wishes or the strongest fantasies in the mind. Another saying is that in the recent period, the strongest emotions in the heart will also appearing in dreams in various postures. Yulin jumped up high and used a copycat version of the sword drawing move. She split a female monster with a particularly long tongue in front of her from the middle and said, for example, this long-tongued monster may subconsciously like her. He speaks ill of people behind their backs, so this attitude is shown in this way. For example, this one with particularly big eyes may like to peek into other people's secrets. This one has extremely long legs. It's probably because he dreams of being taller than ordinary people. This one was flattened into a lump of flesh. It may have suffered some kind of pain from being hammered flat. You see, this one's internal organs are exposed, and its intestines are full of oil. It may be its dream to taste delicious food from around the world. While killing, Yulin analyzed the monster's form from an idealistic perspective and was very happy. Damn it! Can killing monsters bring out the experience of life? And how can these monsters embody the word dream? Apologize to dream. Xingfei listened silently and disagreed with this. Fighting all the way. All kinds of twisted monsters turned into powder. Those monsters do not have complete forms, and some even give people the illusion of breaking apart at any time. The long corridor in front of them twists into an S shape from time to time, giving both Yulin and Xingfei the illusion of being in a dream. It is not difficult to tell the difference from the real Green Town. 20 minutes later, Yulin and Xingfei finally arrived on the 4th floor. In fact, the 4th floor was not their destination at the beginning. They just wanted to search the TV stations for any creatures that might be grim. But after clearing the monsters, they finally appeared on the 4th floor. Wait. What is this sound? Just stepped onto the 4th floor. Xingfei paused and looked shocked. Ahead, from a certain room, a melodious song could be heard faintly. It's the violin. On the 4th floor. There are no monsters. They killed all the nightmare monsters. But here, the sound of a violin suddenly came from the depths. In such a scene, no matter how beautiful the sound of the violin is, it is difficult for people to appreciate it. Yulin and Xingfei looked at each other. Xingfei pursed his lips in the direction of the violin sound, as if to say, "You, the agile side, go first." Yulin's eyes twitched slightly. There is an urge for a showdown. But think about it and forget it. After all, I've been pretending to be agile for so long, so there's no point in pretending to be agile for a little longer. There is a door across. There was a melodious violin sound coming from inside. The tone was ups and downs, sometimes sad, sometimes light, sometimes deep. And a man with a deep voice was singing in a low voice. Again and again. Singing the same song. Like, "He's waiting for us." Yulin raised her chin, pushed open the door, and came to this conclusion. Behind the door. It's an old photo studio. A bright spotlight, the light converges in the center of the room. Many black and white film video recorders were set up around the room, facing an elegant man in the center. The man is wearing a tuxedo. It's somewhat similar to Yulin's Krypton gold appearance. But in comparison, it has a more contemporary feel. If you look closely, you will see that there are many subtle wrinkles on the tuxedo. The wrinkles that were not obvious at first are infinitely magnified by the dazzling lights and appear extremely clear under the lens. The man in the tuxedo turned his back to Yulin and Xingfei, playing the violin attentively and singing softly to the rhythm of the violin. There was a girl born into royalty. As the old ballad goes. She is the most beautiful girl in the royal family. She's in the stone castle every night. Sleep alone. Any sound that can awaken even the dead. I can't even wake her up. When the man performed this exotic song in a low tone, Xingfei couldn't help but become entranced. He was frozen in place and unable to move for a long time. Suddenly, just when the song was about to reach its climax, the singing stopped abruptly. The man stopped playing the violin and turned around slowly. When he turned around, both Yulin and Xingfei felt a strong sense of disobedience rushing towards them. The weird patchwork of facial features, the big mouth split to the ears on both sides, and the deep black eyes stared straight at the two of them like ghosts. He is green. It's that TV host, Green. Yulin stared at the space where Green was from a distance, raised his hand, and aimed at that area. Green smiled slightly. I wish you all a wonderful night. Good night. Sizzling. The sound of sneaky footsteps sounded from my ears. Yulin raised her head suddenly, with a confused look on her face. When Judy saw Yulin wake up, her fingers were fixed in the air, her expression froze. Yulin frowned. When did I fall asleep? Judy laughed and said with a sweet smile, you still have the nerve to say that? If Alan hadn't told me that it was Alan who invited you into my house, I would have thought you had some plans for me. Don't worry, there is no such thing. Where is Alan? It's time to go to school. Judy said casually and yawned, I'm so sleepy. I'm going to take a shower first. At this time, Judy seemed to have just remembered that there were outsiders in the house. Taking a bath alone seems a bit lonely, and cold. Two people can help each other by washing and scrubbing or something. So she hesitated for a moment, then turned around and extended the invitation, would you like, Where is the person? While picking at the dead skin on her forehead, Yulin left Judy's room and returned to her room before she said anything embarrassing. Xingfei's room was empty. Yulin quickly opened the communication panel to confirm that Xingfei's profile picture was still on. It means that he is not dead yet. After contacting Xingfei again, Yulin came to the TV station again. This time, Yulin did not force his way in. At the door, he met Xingfei with a strange expression. You may not believe it, but I seemed to had a very realistic dream last night. In the dream, Xingfei hasn't finished speaking yet. Yulin said bluntly, you and I team up to fight monsters and fight all the way to the TV station. On the 4th floor of the TV station, there is a host named Green playing the violin and singing. A simple sentence perfectly sums up the experiences of Yulin and Xingfei in their dreams. What the hell? How do you know? Could it be that wasn't a dream? No, was it really a dream? Xingfei also felt that his expression was strange. But at this moment, it was really hard for him to describe this weird feeling in words. By the way, there's one more thing. Xingfei suddenly remembered something and had a strange expression. Yesterday, the host named Green on the TV station, didn't he die? When I woke up today, I felt that my dream last night was a bit weird, so I came to the TV station to check it out. I found out that host actually alive. Besides, no one remembers what happened on the TV station yesterday. This is so humming bloody. Hearing this, Yulin suddenly looked at Xingfei. He subconsciously tapped the cool dead skin on his forehead with an index finger, lost in thought. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 297. What the hell? Yulin shook her head slightly. He ignored Xingfei and directly turned on Shadow Follower, stepping into the TV station in full view of everyone. Xingfei looked at the mysterious back of Yulin, who was acting alone. After hesitating for a moment, he still didn't follow. Television during the day is far less weird than at night. Various staff members walked past Yulin quickly. Yulin suddenly came to the 4th floor like a shadow. On the 4th floor, in the studio, filming is taking place. The radio host with strange facial features was skillfully broadcasting the news of the town, and wished every household happiness, health, and physical and mental pleasure. Kill Grim. Yulin stepped forward directly. The intrusion of a stranger made everyone's eyes focus on Yulin. Everyone looked confused. Why do strangers break in? This face looks strange, doesn't it? It looks dangerous. Not a local? Where did it pop out? Security. Security. Someone has skillfully called security to chase people away. Green stared blankly at Yilin in front of him. Yilin thought for a moment, without any nonsense, straight to the point, why are you called Green? No, I don't know. Who are you? Green looked panicked. His weird facial features, no matter what emotion appears, make people feel like they are facing the villain in a thriller story. The eyebrows, nose, mouth, and ears, taken apart individually, are all ordinary and nothing special. But when put together on this face, it makes people feel extremely weird, as if there is a saying in the heart, I don't know whether to say it or not. Why are you called Green? Yilin took another step forward and asked. Maybe it's because Yilin gives people the impression of being too evil, or maybe it's because Green is very timid. This step was so close that Green was so frightened that he sat down on the ground, his teeth chattering. With great difficulty, he endured the strong fear and had the courage to say, Who are you? Leave quickly. If you don't leave, I will call the police. Do you know who I am? I am Dash. Laugh. Yilin's face was expressionless as she slashed with the knife. Before the dark red sword light dissipated, the short sword disappeared from Yilin's hand, as if it had never appeared. 1 second later, a thin knife mark appeared on Green's neck. Another second. Green's weird facial features and frightened but terrifying expression were fixed on that face. The person and the head are completely separated. Ah! Kill, kill, kill. Humpk. Green is dead. Quick, go call the police. Damn it. The police station phone number can't be reached. That damn guy must be hung over again. Call security, security, call security. The TV station fell into complete chaos because of Green's death. Because a murder had occurred, no one dared to step forward to capture this terrifying-looking murderer. All the staff turned pale with fright and ran out of the studio in a panic. Various instruments and fill lights fell to the ground one after another in the chaos. Yilin turned a deaf ear to everything around her. He just looked at the body at his feet, which was gradually turning cold. His name is Green. Is a host. Yesterday, he died. Today, he died again. His head is gone, there is no way he is still alive. But Yilin waited for a while and sighed, that's it? He gently closed Green's round eyes and said softly, go to sleep. After saying that, he left the TV station as if nothing happened. After Yilin left, Green's head, those eyelids closed calmly, suddenly opened. Yilin walked out of the TV station with a calm expression. Sci-fi squatted on the roadside. Looking at Yilin's expression, it felt weird. How could he have the illusion that this guy had just come out of the brothel and was feeling refreshed? An illusion must be an illusion. Is it done? Sci-fi stepped forward and asked. Yilin shook his head, this trial is indeed complicated. I still have some key clues that need to be confirmed. It's just. Just what? Yilin glanced at Sci-fi, her dark pupils making Sci-fi's hair flutter. But in the end, Yilin still didn't say what was in her heart, forget it, there should still be time. But if it were you and you wanted to wake up from your dream, what would you do? Sci-fi was slightly startled when he heard this. Although he didn't know what the meaning of Yilin's seemingly ordinary question was. But after thinking for a moment, he said with a somewhat uncertain tone, pinch your face hard. Yilin. The two of them were walking on the road. There was a lot of commotion in the TV station just now. It seemed like someone ran out. What did you do in there? Oh, it's nothing. I killed Green again. Yilin answered casually. Well, it's really nothing. Sci-fi replied subconsciously, then raised his head and his glasses slipped down. Wait, you killed Green again? Which Green? That's the one in my dream yesterday. What the hell? Is it so exciting? Then what? Then? It feels normal, what's wrong? Xingfei was speechless. Am I specifically asking about the feel? While chatting, Yilin suddenly stopped. Xingfei felt that Yilin's expression suddenly became serious, so he subconsciously took out his gloves and put them on. After all, in the trial, you can't be careless every minute. This is the square. But strangely, it was sparsely populated. The residents of the town didn't know where to hide. And in front of Yilin and Xingfei, two strong men, eagerly waiting, seemed to have been standing there for a long time. It's them. Xingfei was about to make a move when a cold voice suddenly sounded from behind him, "Don't move, otherwise, you will die." A sharp military thorn stabbed Xingfei's neck and carotid artery silently. Far away, 81 carried a huge hammer and laughed heartily. "I advise you not to move around. That guy on 73 is specially used for bleeding. If you stab it with a knife, your blood will be sprayed louder than a burst water pipe. It's fast." 73 emerged from the shadows, holding a military thorn, and held Xingfei hostage. Xingfei felt the cold touch on his neck and did not dare to move. Careless. He didn't dodge. What to do in this situation? Although he still had a life-saving skill, he didn't want to use it unless it was absolutely necessary. In an instant, Xingfei's mind was spinning. In the trial, there are no absolute enemies and no absolute friends. What do you want? Xingfei tried his best to sound more awesome. Maybe he could scare these three murderous masters. The 56 boxing gloves have already been put on, and I look like I can strike hard at any time. But the two of them did not step forward, and were 10 meters away from Yilin and Xingfei. Although 73 held Xingfei hostage, they did not relax their vigilance against Yilin. After all, in her eyes, Yilin was a man who could block her assassination in a hurry. His agility should not be underestimated. 56 hands of fine steel gloves were clenched in front of him, making a clicking sound. "I think there should be some misunderstanding between us." Yilin smiled. "Well, probably not yet. After all, we haven't communicated in detail." 81's smiling face suddenly darkened. Yilin's calmness and attitude at the moment, and her ability to laugh out loud in this situation, made 81 pairs of Yilin look highly upon her. "That's right." 56 smiled faintly. "Since we have no misunderstanding, if you have any ideas about this mission, you shouldn't mind telling us, right?" Xingfei's expression changed. These guys are really here for the clearance guide? Yilin and Xingfei have now found a lot of clues. Whether it is the truth of the dream or other key points, Xingfei feels that he is on the path to clear the level. He did not expect that these three guys would choose to use this method. A way to extract information from two people. Xingfei wanted to say no. But now it's him who's holding a knife to his neck, not Yilin. Xingfei thought of this and said quickly, "Your people put a knife on my neck. Is this your sincerity in negotiating?" Boom. Accompanied by a loud noise, a terrifying vibration attracted everyone's attention. I saw 81 slamming the heavy hammer on the ground. With the heavy hammer as the center, spider web-like cracks spread to all sides. After smashing the hammer like a demonstration, 81 said to Yilin and Xingfei loudly and refreshed, "I think you misunderstood something. We are not here to negotiate with you now. We ask, you answer, or you die if you can't answer, it's that simple." Xingfei. It seems to make sense. Xingfei shed tears silently in his heart. He is now a piece of meat on someone else's chopping block, and he really has no negotiating capital. And Xingfei looked at Yilin. He didn't believe that Yilin would reveal the clues to clear the level because of him. Among the apostles, no one could be that great. Although this mission is a team mission, it does not mean that there is no competitive element. The main mission is very clear: kill Grim. In the process of killing Green, it is obvious that whoever kills Green with his own hands will get a higher clearance rating. Obtaining a higher clearance rating means that more attribute values can be improved during settlement, and more attribute values mean the possibility of woohoo taking off. Think of this. Xingfei didn't ask Yilin for help. After all, he was not that naive. Okay, let me tell you. When Xingfei was about to tell him the information he had, Yilin waved his hand. Wait a minute. 56 and 81's sharp gazes shot towards Yilin like knives. Behind Xingfei, he held Xingfei's 73 with his military thorn tightly. The sharp military thorn also pressed deeply into Xingfei's skin, poking a small hole. Thick blood flowed along the military thorn. On the edge, a drop fell to the ground. Damn it! Brother, why don't you do this with me? A trace of hatred flashed in Xingfei's eyes. In order to pass the evaluation, Yilin decided to give up his life. In this case, let me tell you, this guy's language organization skills are not very good. Yilin smiled and looked down on Xingfei. Xingfei. 3 awesome killers. I think. Yilin's senses were quietly released. While guarding against 73, she looked at the 2 people 10 meters away and said something shocking: "You should have died last night, right?" As soon as Yilin said these words, 56 and 81, 10 meters away, had dramatic changes in their expressions. Because Yilin was right. They died last night. But they are alive again. This strange experience made them more vigilant about this trial. Originally, not being able to die in the trial should be a very happy thing. But what if there were consequences worse than death? This is exactly what 56 is worried about. His personality is different from that of 81. Although he has killed countless people, he cherishes his life more than anyone else. That's why 56 decided to use this method to block Yilin and Xingfei. I would like to ask for information about the trial in a friendly manner from the 2 of them. No matter what method is used. So what? 56 asked with a sullen face. Yilin smiled. Okay, I'll tell you. You should have encountered an unkillable monster last night. They come from dreams. There is a weird phenomenon in Greentown. At night, dreams will overlap with reality, and they overlap and intersect in various postures. In Greentown, the closer it gets to night, the easier it is to accidentally fall asleep. Sometimes, you can't even tell when you fell asleep and entered the dreamland. As monsters in dreams, if you want to kill them, you have to enter the dream as well. 56's eyes flashed. He didn't expect Yilin to be so cooperative and tell the important trial information. Could it be fake? 56 is habitually skeptical. But combined with their experiences last night, his rich experience told him that this kid didn't seem to be lying. After pondering for a moment, 56 asked again, how to enter the dreamland? Yilin pointed at her brain and said with a smile, it's very simple, just find a place to sleep. 81's pupils suddenly shrank, and he subconsciously said, that stinky woman yesterday. Shut up, 81. 56's voice was cold, reprimanding the loud-mouthed 81 to prevent him from accidentally revealing any important information. 81 understood instantly and closed his mouth. But he also understood in his heart. No wonder the woman who escaped last night slept among a bunch of monsters. No wonder those monsters with 2 legs and 1 whip have such twisted and weird shapes. It turns out that it was all transformed from the girl's nightmare. The girl witnessed 81 brutally beating her mother to death. This scene was too shocking in the girl's eyes, so she created such a twisted nightmare monster in her dream. Perhaps it was because those monsters were all manifestations of the girl's nightmares, so they all surrounded the sleeping girl, protecting that damn woman. Etc. 81 suddenly thought of something even more terrifying. If the experiences of the small town residents during the day may turn into nightmares, then the people they tortured and killed in various cruel ways on the TV station. And the residents in other corners of the town who they casually crushed to death. Thinking of this, 81 tightened his grip on the hammer, lowered his head and said nothing. When various thoughts flashed through 81's mind. The leader of the trio, 56, was still facing Yilin from a distance. Just fall asleep? Is that easy? Yilin asked, otherwise, what do you think? 56 was silent for a while. Indeed. If you want to fall asleep, there seems to be no other way than falling asleep where you are. This is very obvious logic. Green, who is it? 56 asked again. Yilin chuckled, if we knew, could we still stay here waiting for you? 73 looked at 56 from a distance. The military thorn in his hand was pressed a little tighter. 56 shook his head slowly. Meaning, keep it, it's still useful for the time being, kill it later. Understand in 73 seconds. The thorn she pressed against Xingfei's carotid artery relaxed slightly. 73 prepared to leave and dive into the shadows again. Suddenly. Just in a moment. The moment 56 and 73 eyes met. The only moment when Yilin looked away from Yilin, in less than a second, a cold touch touched Chi-san's neck. 73 was shocked. She didn't dare to look back. Also cannot. Even though Yilin behind her didn't say a word, this action seemed to say that she would die if she made even the slightest move. Yilin skillfully placed blood jasmine across Chi-san's neck. She habitually looked at the white patch of neck and said with a smile, no one knows assassination better than me. 73. 56. 81. Xingfei almost cried. Because he felt that the sharp military thorns on his neck were about to be moved away, and then pressed up again. When Yilin spoke, he could already guess what happened. I said, boss, you are just pretending to be cool. Can you ask this woman to move the knife away? Those who wield knives and guns are very dangerous. The situation at the scene suddenly became stiff and cold. No one dared to take any action. 73 held his breath. She hesitated. Do you want to bet? Bet on who is faster. Bet on who has the higher agility attribute. Bet on whose knife is sharper. She admits there is a gamble element to the idea. But. However, Yilin guessed Chi-san's thoughts and continued in the silence of the trio, believe me, you will definitely die before him. I am confident. Besides, whether he dies or not, what does it have to do with me? 56's eyes were as cold as iron. The eyes of the three people met quickly. Let it go. 73 did not dare to nod, but said softly, okay. The moment the military thorn was released, Xingfei quickly ran forward a few steps. The experience of escaping from the knife edge made him lie on the ground, gasping for air. After a while, he put on his gloves again and prepared to take action. 56 squinted his eyes and stared at Yilin. That look was like looking at a dead person. Ha! I said, no one knows assassination better than me. Yilin chuckled, moved the knife away, and then stepped back violently. 73 felt the cold touch on his neck disappear, and without hesitation, he immediately activated his skills and sneaked into the shadows. A dark shadow moved quickly on the ground, and in a blink of an eye it came behind 56 and 81. 56 looked at Yilin deeply and remained silent. After a few seconds, the trio quickly moved away from Yilin and Xingfei. After the trio could no longer be seen in front of him, Xingfei did not dare to be careless. His eyes kept swaying, as if he wanted to check for any strange shadows around him. While asking, why don't you do it? In his opinion, just now was obviously the best time. Yilin's strength should not be weak. As long as he can instantly kill one of the opponents and is the most troublesome assassin type apostle, in the next 2v2 situation, with their mental and agility configuration, they may not be able to match the opponent's dual strength side. Configured. After all, Xing Fei has many tricks, a good job, and a lot of trump cards that he has not yet shown. Yulin shook his head and said with deep eyes, "It's not necessary. No need." Xing Fei was stunned. He didn't understand. That box alone is already necessary, right? Who doesn't like licking bags? Isn't it delicious to lick the bag? Even Xing Fei is no exception. And Xing Fei remembered the confrontation just now and what Yulin said. He couldn't help but feel a little depressed. Although you were trying to save me, why were you so honest? Did you tell the whole truth? It would be better to hide it a little bit. This way, we won't have any advantage in the trial. Perhaps, after they enter the dreamland, they will find Green faster than us. If Green lets them kill him by then, our clearance evaluation will probably be terrible. Yulin looked at Xing Fei. The look in his eyes was a little strange. When did I say that I was here to save you? When Xing Fei heard this, his eyes widened suddenly. Wait a minute, is what you just said true? Which sentence? What does it have to do with me whether he dies or not? That's the sentence. Xing Fei was afraid that Yulin would not admit his fault, so he tried his best to imitate Yulin's pretentious tone at that time. Oh, half-truth, or half-lie. Yulin thought about it and modified it a little in order not to hurt her kindness. Saying this, Xing Fei felt much more comfortable. Yulin paused for a moment, put her hands behind her back, walked towards Judy's hotel, and explained softly, actually, as long as they confirm two things now, it will be enough. Xing Fei slowly typed a question mark. 1. Here is reality. 2. No one knows assassination better than me. Yulin's two words made Xing Fei confused. Is not it? Being able to dodge everyone's attention in an instant and move behind Qi-san. In Xing Fei's opinion, this move is much more powerful than Qi-san's technique. 73 turned into a shadow, at least there are traces to follow. As long as you pay attention to the strange shadows behind you and around you, you can take precautions in advance. But he still couldn't figure out how Yulin moved behind Qi-san in the blink of an eye and held the opponent's neck with a knife. If this guy were to be rated by him, he would definitely give it 82 points. He decided to make up the remaining 18 points in the form of 666. Looking at Xing Fei, who was confused, Yulin secretly shook his head. The mental aspect of the session is not very good. But he didn't say this out loud, nor did he explain much. He just said with some expectation, anyway, maybe we'll find out after tonight. Don't rush, there's still time. The two returned to the hotel. In broad daylight, Judy didn't do anything too extreme. She made a slight invitation, but after being rejected by Yulin, she went back to her room to catch up on her sleep. Yulin turned on the TV. Annoying shopping programs and commercials are still playing on the television. From time to time it rustles, and from time to time it automatically switches to other channels. Although Yulin said that something might happen at night, Xing Fei did not dare to sleep randomly. He was afraid that if he fell asleep and accidentally entered a dream, he would be alone, a little panicked. When Alan was over from school, Yulin walked downstairs again. Yesterday, Yulin praised his beautiful paintings. Today, Alan took out a painting from his school bag and showed it to Yulin happily as if it were a treasure. There is a man in the painting. Have a face. But that face, Yulin actually felt a little familiar. Looking more closely, although Alan's technique can be called a soul painter, he can only understand but not express it in words, but the facial features outlined by the crayon and the width of the corners of his mouth are actually the same as those of the TV host who was knifed off by Yulin not long ago. Green, somewhat similar. But perhaps because Alan's painting skills are more joyful, the exaggerated facial features feel less weird and more funny. Well, pretty good. With a smile on her face, Yilin returned the painting to Alan and touched Alan's soft and delicate brown curly hair. Nice painting, who is this? Alan was a little embarrassed by this straightforward praise. He lowered his head and carefully rolled up the painting. The teacher gave me an assignment today. The ideal father. It happened that Alan had a strange dream last night. This uncle took Alan to count the stars, and Alan drew him. Yilin asked again, "What's his name?" Alan hesitated for a moment. He didn't know whether to say it or not, because he also felt a little strange. But under Yilin's encouraging gaze, he still whispered, "In the dream, he said his name was Green." Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 298. Yilin heard the name again. It seems that in the whole town, everyone knows Green, but they don't know Green. This time, Yilin's face showed no strange emotions such as surprise, shock, confusion, etc. He just smiled slightly and continued to twist Alan's fine brown curls with his hands. Huh. It turns out that the movement of turning your head is quite touching. No wonder Yi likes to scratch his head. Yilin suddenly had such a ridiculous idea. Have you met him? Aaron hasn't seen it? Alan thought seriously for a while, then shook his head vigorously. Uncle. Alan suddenly raised his head, looked at Yilin with his eyes as clear as sapphire, and asked timidly, "I want to know, why they all have fathers, but Alan doesn't have a father? Is it because Alan isn't enough good? Are Alan's paintings not good enough?" Alan hesitated for a moment and lowered his head. Does it mean that the painting Alan drew looks like Dad, and Dad will come back? No, Yilin said softly, Alan is a good boy. Your paintings are also very soulful. But don't worry. It will happen. Your father will definitely come back. Yilin got a little closer and looked at Alan's blue pupils, as if staring at the sky. Good boy, go to sleep. When you wake up, just everything is available. When Alan heard this, he had a dark line. Uncle, how can you say such things to deceive children? It's so poor. Yilin chuckled. While chatting, Alan had tidied away the crayons and paintings on the table and was getting ready to go to bed. Goodbye, Uncle. Bye, Alan. After taking a few steps, Alan turned back with a serious expression. Judy secretly said that if Uncle is willing, he can stay here for the night. Please tell Judy that Uncle is very busy and will do it next time. Okay. Definitely next time, I'll tell Judy another time. Alan had no doubt that he had a car. He smiled lightly and cute dimples appeared on both sides of his mouth. Good night, Uncle. Good night, Alan. Have a wonderful night. Yilin paid the full room fee and did not choose to stay at Judy's house overnight. Inappropriate. Sci-fi finally seemed to be unable to bear it any longer and fell asleep completely again. Yilin is alone. In the room. Keep your head down. As the sky darkened, the light swaying slightly overhead cast a mottled shadow on Yilin's face. He kept rubbing the ancient compass in his hand. On the compass, the pointer keeps spinning, seemingly endlessly. Yilin's expression did not appear to have changed at all. But thinking about it carefully, it seems like thinking, hesitating, and entangled. I don't know how much time passed. Sci-fi yawned and walked in. As he walked, he said, "This mission is very strange. When I wake up, I can't figure out whether I am in reality or a dream. It is very difficult. Wait, you should come and see me, right?" Seeing that Yilin was completely ignoring him, Sci-fi couldn't help but move forward and stretched out his hand to wave in front of Yilin. When the boundary between dreams and reality is broken, when you wake up and can't tell whether it is reality or a dream, this feeling will be weird to everyone. Yilin silently put away the compass. When she raised her head again, Yilin looked at Xingfei with a kind and warm smile. In fact, if Yilin is partnered with little fatty, Han Xiaozhang, Oda Mai, or other people with rich experience this time, they will definitely be surprised when they see Yilin showing such a kind smile. Hiding as far away as possible, and silently going over what Yilin said in his mind. If it were you, what would you do if you wanted to wake up from a dream? Xingfei was stunned. Wait, you seem to have asked this question once. Have you asked? I asked, and I'm 100% sure. I forgot. If it were you, what would you do if you wanted to wake up from a dream? Yilin repeated the question. Xingfei saw that Yilin didn't mean to joke. After thinking for a moment, he answered seriously, it should be doing something very exciting, pinching one's face is just one kind. Or falling from a high altitude. Or something else. In short, who you know, dreams are very simple when you say they are simple, and very complicated when you say they are complex. Yilin took out the compass again and turned it over and over. A compass looks like a lot of fun. Xingfei also noticed that Yilin had a compass in his hand that looked nothing special, and the pointer was spinning steadily. Like it's broken. Generally, the direction pointed by the compass remains motionless. But on the compass in Yilin's hand, the pointer even moved rhythmically. The pointer rotated, making Xingfei feel dizzy and feel tight in his chest. Before Xingfei could ask more out of curiosity, Yilin asked again, how do you know whether you are in a dream or reality? Pinch yourself to see if you can wake up. You'll know if you try it now. As soon as Yilin finished speaking, she didn't expect Xingfei to pinch her hard. Very hard. Although Xingfei's strength attribute is not too high, he is also very cruel to himself, and the left side of his face becomes swollen when he blinks. Ouch, ouch. Xingfei covered his face and screamed in pain. But still didn't wake up. Although the conversation between the two seemed like a joke. But Xingfei already understood. After crying out in pain, Xingfei's expression became extremely solemn. What you actually want to say is that we have no way to distinguish whether we are in a dream or reality. Yilin nodded, then shook her head. But, I obviously fell asleep. Yilin retorted, who told you that you enter a dream after falling asleep? But you obviously told them so. Xingfei just said this smoothly, but he suddenly remembered Yilin's sinister smile after the confrontation with the trio, and suddenly realized, wait, you are deceiving them. What are you talking about? They asked, and I kindly told them, wouldn't I also take the money away? How can this be considered cheating? Yilin smiled. Wonderful. Xingfei slapped his thigh hard and painful. But still didn't wake up. Yilin continued, I personally believe that dreams can simulate all appearances, but dreams cannot simulate certain facts that a person believes in the deepest subconscious. For example, a top that never stops spinning. Or a flower that never dies. Or maybe it's someone who is completely dead and who deep down believes that he will never appear again. A landscape that will never appear before you. Something that could never exist. Yilin cited many examples in succession. Xingfei nodded while listening, I understand. According to what you said, falling asleep does not necessarily mean falling into a dream, and waking up does not necessarily mean waking up. So the only way to truly judge whether you are in the dream world or the real world is to find out what you subconsciously believe to be absolutely impossible. Once this happens, it means that we are still in the dream world, not the real world. After all, Xingfei was also on the mental side, and his head was pounding as he sorted out Yilin's thoughts on the plot trial. If this is really the case, then the real danger of this trial is likely to be here. If you can't even distinguish between dreams and reality, and go to sleep stupidly, wouldn't it be the worst possibility? That is, you will never wake up. Think of this. Xingfei was extremely frightened as he thought about it carefully. The more he thought about it, the more frightened he became. He couldn't help but shudder, his back felt cold, and a trace of cold sweat broke out on his forehead. It's very possible, Yilin nodded. I think this may be the biggest danger in this trial. I guess they haven't discovered it yet. What the hell? Then you tricked them into killing monsters in their dreams. You are so bad. But I like it, he he he. Yilin casually closed the cover of the compass with a snap, put it away helplessly, and said, actually, it's not true. It is necessary to fall into a dream. If you don't fall into a dream, there is no way to complete the main mission. Xin-Fei figured out the hidden meaning in Yilin's words. You mean, you actually already know how to pass this trial? That's right, Yilin sighed softly. Damn it. What a waste of time. Go quickly. Xin-Fei rolled up his sleeves, wishing he could go directly to Green and chop him into pieces so that he could return to the real world. He is still busy looking for ancient books on alchemy all over the world to study. How can I waste time in trials? Don't worry, Yilin raised his head, looked at Xin-Fei with empty eyes, and said with a smile, I haven't told you how to wake up from the dream. Huh? Please tell me. For us, what is absolutely impossible and we cannot let it happen? Well, there are a lot. Xin-Fei became confused. Yes. There are indeed many. But for everyone, there is one thing in common. That is. Xin-Fei was stunned. The reason why his mood changed was not because of Yilin's words, but the direction from which the sound came. From behind him. But in front of him, Yilin disappeared without knowing when. The speed is incredible. In the blink of an eye, Yilin had already reached behind him. But what is this guy doing running behind me? Does it smell better behind you? Laugh. In Xin-Fei's mind, many thoughts quickly flashed through his mind. But none of them are reliable. And suddenly, with the crisp sound of a knife piercing the flesh, it was transmitted from the inside of his body to the back of his ears in some strange way. When he reacted, Xin-Fei clearly felt the sharp pain coming from his chest. It was a blood-red knife. That knife looks familiar. The knife completely penetrated his chest, penetrated from behind with incomparable precision, pierced the heart, and emerged from the chest. The relaxed and happy feeling gave Xin-Fei the illusion that his equipment was all paper. It's death. For us, something that is absolutely impossible to happen is death. And being able to survive after death is even less likely to appear in reality. So, Xin-Fei's eyesight went dark, and he couldn't hear the second half of his words. After Yilin took away Xin-Fei with one knife, he looked down at Xin-Fei's body. 10 seconds. 20 seconds. 30 seconds. Xin-Fei's body suddenly turned into black dust and blended into the ground, exactly the same way as the faceless man's body was treated. Really? It doesn't feel right. There is no chaos value, nor is it right. The way the body was disposed of was even more wrong. Sizzling. The black and white TV that had been playing junk TV commercials suddenly heard a harsh noise. After the noise, after his head was chopped off by Yilin, the TV host Green, who was supposed to be cool, appeared on the show again. And it's live broadcast. Hey. Good evening. Welcome to the beautiful and welcoming Greentown. This is a dream vacation paradise. Now, it's the annual Green Festival again. I don't know what will happen in this year's Green Festival. What kind of spectacle? Citizens, please wait and see. I wish you all a wonderful night. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 299. Base. Yilin opened her eyes again. In front of them were Alan and Judy. They were staring at Yiren curiously. He seems to be wondering why this guy suddenly fell asleep here again. Yilin raised her head. His eyes were blank. In the eyes of Judy and Alan, there was also a trace of confusion, as if they were just waking up from a big dream. In the living room. On the table. There is an old black and white TV. Beside the TV. There was a bat-shaped mascot with a rusty spring underneath, swinging from side to side. Green. Those scarlet eyes, vivid and lively, looked at Yulin from a distance. It's obviously a toy. But it doesn't look like a toy. Swish swish. The channel on the TV suddenly changed. Hey. Good evening. Welcome to the beautiful and welcoming Green Town. This is a dream vacation paradise. Now, it's the annual Green Festival again. I don't know what will happen in this year's Green Festival. What kind of spectacle? Citizens, please wait and see. I wish you all a wonderful night. Again. Yulin ignored the surprised looks in the eyes of mother and son. He looked calm and left the house. He left Judy with a charming figure as handsome as a scumbag. He didn't call Seeing Fei. In fact, Yulin didn't know which level Seeing Fei was on at the moment. There are few people on the road. The originally lively and peaceful town was as deserted as an abandoned ruin. The fog is getting thicker all around. Yulin went straight to the square, the entrance to the town. The thick fog outside was full of shadows, and there were countless twisted shadows. Behind the thick fog, they looked like ferocious beasts, and it was hard to see clearly. Yulin glanced at the clock in the center of the square. On the clock, the hands seemed to be stuck, one pause, one pause, one pause, one pause. It is as expected. Yulin completely understood. No wonder, apart from this old clockwork clock, there is no other instrument to record time in the entire town of Green. I see. He quickly stepped forward and walked to the edge of the thick fog. The inside of the town and the outside seemed to form two worlds. Yulin slowly stretched out her hand toward the edge of the fog. The moment Yulin's palm penetrated into the fog, it disappeared, as if it had entered another layer of space. When I pulled it back, my hand returned to its original state, nothing special about it. Yulin raised his eyebrows, suddenly feeling enlightened. About an hour later, Yulin came to the TV station again. The dark corridor became even more twisted. Countless monsters are entrenched here. But in Yulin's eyes, those monsters moved even more slowly, as if they were walking in slow motion, which was very funny. Yulin remained silent, holding the knife and skillfully killing the monster legion. After the monster's movement was slowed down, it was even easier for Yulin to kill it, like child's play. Soon, Yulin came to the fourth floor again. The melodious violin sound and the magnetic male singing voice came as scheduled without being late. Yulin sighed. Although all of this confirmed his speculation, and he completely understood the true face of Green Town, he could not be happy. When did I become so soft-hearted? Yulin asked herself. But there is no answer. Because no one can answer Yulin's question. There was a girl born into royalty. As the old ballad goes. She is the most beautiful girl in the royal family. She's in the stone castle every night. Sleep alone. Any sound that can awaken even the dead. I can't even wake her up. Yulin stood quietly in front of Green. Listening to the song over and over again. Like a single loop. To be honest, if it were not for a trial, this kind of treatment of someone playing the violin and humming music in front would not be enjoyed by ordinary people. Very strong. Yulin's heart was completely calm. In addition to the singing, there were also countless incomprehensible whispers echoing in my ears, like a nightmare. I don't know how much time passed. The TV host seemed to finally be able to bear it. It seemed that he had no reason to continue serving Yulin for free. So he stopped singing, stopped moving his hands suddenly, and started to follow the program. Without waiting for host Green to speak. Yulin lowered her head. Said to himself, "Wish me a wonderful night." Green's impatient lines were instantly stuck in his throat and he was stunned. Base. Yilin woke up again. My mind is getting blurry. The concept of time seems to have less and less existence. Certainly. It is not reduced to the point of saying who am I, where am I and what am I doing. Yilin knew exactly what she was doing. Again. Judy expertly watched Yilin wake up from her boudoir again, with a dull expression. Not enough. Yilin shook her head. Not deep enough, deep enough. Yilin came to the square again. The square was deserted. The scenery in the distance is even more distorted. In the sky, terrifying cracks appeared. Farther away, the sky was filled with thick fog, and there were actually colorful auroras, shining through the cracks and twisting into colorful shadows on the substantial fog barrier. Who is having this kind of girl a dream? Yilin smiled and looked at the clock. The hands on the clock moved more slowly. Click, 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 click. Yilin could clearly identify the sound of every gear overlapping and the clockwork turning. End of street. There were sounds of fighting. Yilin quickly approached. It's that trio. As Yilin kept falling asleep, dreaming, and waking up, Xingfei, who was killed by Yilin, and the trio were also exploring the truth about Greentown in different ways. This corner is filled with countless weird creatures. Yilin's expression suddenly became strange. Because these creatures do indeed exceed the lower limit of imagination. 2 legs and 1 whip? Ah, this. Although the appearance of these creatures is very strange, their fighting power is very good. When the whip came out, the trio was beaten to pieces and their bodies were covered in blood. Mother! Mom, mom, mom! The monsters made a monotonous and sharp tone from their mouths, and countless voices came together to make people feel scalp numb. For some reason, 81 endured the most attacks, and almost 80% of the 2 legs and 1 whip monsters rushed towards him. He swung the hammer with a whirring sound, but strangely, the ones that hit it didn't cause much damage to the monster, it seemed like it was just scratching an itch. Why are you here? Xingfei appeared from nowhere and bubbled up secretly. Yilin looked at Xingfei, half smiling but not smiling, understood. Xingfei scratched his head, I understand, but it really hurts. Only death can confirm whether you are in a dream. Only death can you wake up. But this is completely a gamble, Juan. In reality, death is really death. Who dares to gamble with his life? Yeah, that makes sense. Xingfei suddenly remembered, and a hint of anger flashed behind his glasses. Wait, that's why you risked my life? No, I'm sure. Actually only 80%. Yilin silently added in her mind. Of course, in order to avoid hurting his temper, Yilin did not say the second half of the sentence. Xingfei nodded. Although he knew very well that Yilin's actions were part of gambling, he did not point it out. If he did, it would be meaningless for everyone to break up the relationship. Only. This guy. How insidious. Xingfei thought silently in his heart, and kept a few steps away from Yilin without leaving any trace. As the two of them watched, 81 was overwhelmed by the strange monster again. Xingfei couldn't help complaining, I'm curious, whose dream created these, won't they be harmonized? Yilin pointed at the sleeping girl in white in the center of the monster, it should be her. Nightmare monsters will involuntarily protect the master who gave birth to them, just like the father in Alan's imagination, and will treat Alan as his own son to protect the same. Xingfei pondered for a moment, and then he couldn't laugh or cry. It seems that these monsters are actually guardians to their parents. Yilin shook his head, nightmares are not terrible. For everyone, nightmares may be a way to relieve stress, or a form of escaping from reality. It's like some people will transform their lives into dreams. It's a situation where annoying people are shaped into various twisted monsters and then beaten up. Oh, what's more terrifying is actually human beings. Xingfei thought of the faceless man who chased them to protect Alan. He felt deeply and added, to be precise, it's the human heart. How ironic. Yilin and Xingfei are not stupid. It is not difficult to guess what some apostles with bad personalities will do during trials. Combining the shape of the monster in front of them with the girl's nightmare, Yilin and Xingfei were able to figure out most of why the monsters clung to 81. Countless whips with spikes tightly wrapped around 81, leaving his skin and flesh torn. 81 screamed in agony, but he became more ferocious, completely ignoring his injuries, dragging countless monsters behind him, raised his hammer, and rushed towards the girl. In the 81 logic, it is very simple. Since the girl is the creator of these monsters, maybe killing the damn woman can solve these monsters. Suddenly, Yilin turned her head and looked to the right. 2 meters away, there is a wall. There is a shadow on the wall. A twisted shadow appeared silently and out of nowhere. I said, no one knows assassination better than me. Yilin stretched out her hand towards the shadow from a distance, hesitated for 0.5 seconds, but still shook her head helplessly. Forget it, I'll give you a ride. Grip of Annihilation. Before 73 could cancel the skill, a force appeared from the shadows, locking the surrounding space silently. Fry. Boom. The brilliant firelight drowned out the shadows and walls. Everything inside was completely blown to pieces. What the hell? Xingfei's eyes almost popped out of his head when he saw the powerful enemy being wiped out when Yilin raised his hand. Didn't you say you were on the agility side? Huh? Did I say that? You said before. Did I really say that? You really said that? You must be dreaming. Right now. 73 was killed by Yilin's hand. This scene also fell in the eyes of 56 and 81. Of course, 81 suffered the most pain, being buried by countless legs and whips, and had no time to care. 56's cold eyes shot toward Yilin and Xingfei who were watching. They look very much like two knives. Very fierce. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 300. 56's fine steel glove floated with a shining light. It seemed like a punch would strike at any moment. He was seen walking like a dragon and a tiger, slowly punching towards Yilin and Xingfei. If you don't look at the speed, you can deduce from the slightly distorted space around the fist that the power contained in this punch should be very terrifying. One step, one step, one step. 56 felt very fast. Unbelievably fast. But Yilin had no time to lower her head and start thinking. Since when did his attribute values far exceed those of the same level? Is it because it gets super high ratings every time? Or is it because of the module that the deducted luck and charm points are added to the 4 attributes of strength, agility, spirit, and will every time a level is passed and evaluated? From the beginning, Yilin knew that this trio was not weak. But there was no way to make Yilin feel threatened. In particular, Yilin now has many trump cards. She has gained a lot of chaos points in Styx Junior High School, and her overall strength has been greatly improved. No matter who it is difficult for anyone at the same level to withstand Yilin's direct attack. Probably, no one. Lonely. Yilin sighed and summed it up in 3 words. Both pretentious and honest. And when Yilin finished thinking, 56, in slow motion, had only stepped a few meters away, and was far from reaching Yilin. Well, I'll give you a ride. Yilin shook his head, holding a short knife, and his breathing method started to work on its own. In his opinion, 56 looked awesome, but his whole body was full of flaws, as if he was undefended. Hiss. Yilin passed by 56 in such a relaxed and happy manner, and made an ordinary slash. Xing Fei's eyes widened. He witnessed with his own eyes that Yilin easily and comfortably defeated 56. He couldn't see clearly how Yilin got behind Wuliu in an instant. You. Xing Fei only had time to say one word. Yilin walked behind Xing Fei again. Xing Fei didn't have time to react. After you wake up, just find a place to make some soy sauce. Yilin reminded with a smile, and took Xing Fei away with another knife. Grass. Xing Fei looked down and saw a bloody dagger coming out of his chest. He still didn't know what happened. This guy hummed him up again. Yilin turned around. Ignoring the bodies of Xing Fei, 56, and 73, they turned into black powder and disappeared. He also ignored 81 who was screaming in agony as the monster hummed him crazily. Yilin put away the blood jasmine and left here. In thick fog. A host with strange features and funny expressions watched Yilin coming from a distance, bowed gracefully and said with a smile, "I wish you a wonderful night." Yilin said, "Good night." Base. Yilin woke up again. There was no wave in his expression. Alan and Judy in front of them had even more dull expressions, as if they were walking zombies. On the square. The hands on the clock have almost stopped turning. But only almost. The old clockwork clock occasionally makes a clicking sound as the gears rotate, which seems to indicate that time is still passing. What floor am I on? In Yilin's ears, the murmuring sound that seemed to pull people into the abyss became more and more obvious. My mind was buzzing. If it weren't for Yilin's extremely high will attribute, she might have been tortured by the horrible nightmare murmurs long ago. The scenery above the town is almost condensed, becoming a magical picture that is eternally frozen. Yilin wanders around the town. He is searching. Looking for green. Again. Occasionally, there are monsters echoing and wandering, and the monsters utter various meaningless sleep babbles. Although the shapes of the monsters are strange and weird, the only thing they have in common is that the monsters all move very slowly, as if in slow motion. Yilin easily shuttled among the monsters. But it only looks easy on the surface. In fact, his biggest enemy now is not the weird dream in front of him, nor the weird monsters, nor the trio reduced to soy sauce. But himself. Yilin meets 81 again. But this time, there were no other two men and women around 81. 81 was once again submerged in the group of monsters with two legs and one whip. His expression was crazy and twisted. Is it just you? Yilin watched from a distance as 81 was rolled into a rice dumpling by the terrifying monster and twisted into bloody water. Her expression remained unchanged and she sighed softly. Suddenly, the sleeping girl stood up silently, with a strange expression and distorted facial features that made it impossible for people to associate with the word girl. Looking closer, the girl's facial features turned into a grim look, with an exaggerated face and cracked mouth, which was scary and frightening. Have a wonderful night. Ja. The girl suddenly laughed sinisterly in a low voice. Yilin's eyes went white. When he opened his eyes again, he returned to the hotel. But Judy and Alan were no longer in sight. On the table, an old black and white television plays a loud, shrill program. Here. The whispering sound seemed to come from the depths of my mind, and there was a strange voice, whispering softly, as if it was saying something. Yilin's expression changed slightly. He quickly walked out of the hotel. Looked up. This world has completely changed. I saw that the entire town seemed to be folded by strange forces. All the structures in front of, behind, in the sky, and underground were cut, reorganized, and shattered. Yilin clearly walked out of the Judy Hotel, but outside the hotel, there was a TV station, the twisted corridor, but when she raised her head, Yilin saw a square cut into countless pieces. Yilin even saw the old clockwork clock. The clockwork clock hung upside down above his head. Yilin took a deep breath. He finally reached the end. Or maybe it's the end of him. It is possible that if it continues, more layers of dreams will be born, but this scene in front of me seems to be the end of the dream in Greentown. Finally reached. Yulin's face turned slightly pale, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. During this experience of constantly traveling through dreams, he had been thinking about this question. Is there any other way to pass this trial? Yulin kept thinking. It's a pity that I didn't expect it. For now, he can only solve this trial in this way. Walking through the corridor, Yulin came to places that were becoming more and more unfamiliar to him. Hospitals, schools, police stations, shops, cafes. Whether she has been there or not, every time Yulin walks out, the scenery changes rapidly in front of her eyes. The deeper the dream, the closer it is to the so-called subconscious mind. Whether it is the content of the dream or the dream environment, it is completely uncontrollable and more similar to an original ecological form. That's why this phenomenon appears. A chaotic and chaotic space. Yet, I don't know how much time passed. Yulin quickly visited the entire town again. The town was deserted. Not even monsters. Yulin has confirmed that the truth of Greentown is as he speculated. In fact, Yulin did not expect at first that the dream world of Greentown would be so weird. It seemed that there was no danger, but if you were deeply involved, it would be full of dangers. This is a trial that will not lead to death, but if something goes wrong, it will be more terrifying than death. The dream world actually has many layers. After falling into a dream, you can still dream, and then fall into a dream again, and you can still dream again. Similar to infinity Matryoshka dolls, endless. Even the apostles, who were trapped in layers of nightmares, couldn't tell whether they were in a dream or reality, or in which layer of a dream they were. Yulin himself couldn't count them. He just kept sinking, dreaming continuously, reaching the deepest dream state. Here is the end. It is both the end of the trial and the end of the dream. There was no one around, but his ears were filled with the nightmares and murmurs of countless people. The murmurs that came from his ears and seemed to come from the depths of his brain made people feel crazy. Yulin can still maintain his sanity now entirely because he has an extremely high will attribute and is extremely resistant to negative states. And, the most important thing is, there are actually two ways to fall into a dream. Falling asleep is certainly one kind, but the other kind is even more difficult to guard against. That is, have a wonderful night. In fact, every time Yulin heard these words, he had already entered the next level of dreamland without even noticing it. In addition to seeing whether you are dead after committing suicide and being able to judge whether you are in a dream, you can also judge by the flow of time. In each level of dreamland, time flows at a different speed. The deeper the dream, the faster time flows. In contrast, the things in the surface dream are equivalent to slow motion in the eyes of Yulin, who is in the deep dream. Everything in the dream is a dream. But the ancient clockwork clock in the square, like a lighthouse on the sea at night, became Yulin's only reference. The slower the hands on the clockwork clock turn, the deeper the dream that Yulin enters. Until the end. Yulin walked around the fragmented deep dreamland Greentown several times. He confirmed that there was no other living being that could move in this town except him. In other words, no one is in this level of dreamland. Next, Yulin walked to the glass window and murmured to herself. I've always been curious. Why is this town called Green? The mascot, also called Green. There is a host with weird facial features, also named Green. It seems that everyone knows about Green, but they don't know why there are all green here. Looking back now, this should be regarded as a hint. Just like the technique of hypnosis, a name is hidden over and over in ordinary words, patterns, and music. Even if the hypnotized person has never heard of the name, he will have a sense of emotion the moment he hears it. A feeling of déjà vu. Unconsciously, the name green is planted in everyone's heart and deeply imprinted in everyone's subconscious. Dreams are one of the manifestations of the subconscious. The deeper the impression in the subconscious, the higher the frequency of dreams. So Alan's father was also a green in the dream. The girl who was violated, the monster that appeared in the dream, might also be a green. Even our dreams are filled with all kinds of grim. I have been thinking about this question: is green a phenomenon? Or is there really such a being, secretly hiding behind all of this, watching all of this with enjoyment? I prefer the latter. Yilin raised her head. Look at your reflection in the mirror. The glass of the window reflected Yilin's face. But that was not Yilin's familiar face. Yilin said slowly, do you think so, green? Yilin's facial features in the mirror, at some point, turned into a green appearance. The shadow in the mirror smiled strangely. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 301. In Greentown, there is actually no green. Or maybe everyone is a green. When everyone knows the name green, they will involuntarily give birth to a green in their dreams. No matter it's a faceless person. Or maybe those grotesque monsters. Or maybe other twisted creatures. Or those who have returned from the dead. All nightmare creatures are grim. Even if they are not green in the first place, the dreamer will regard them as green. The ancients said, I think, therefore I am. Although this sentence has many meanings. But when used here, the meaning is clear. By the time anyone knew about green, green was already here. In the deepest layers of dreams, in fact, a green appeared in Yilin's subconscious. This grim was tossing and turning in front of Yilin, and it was impossible for Yilin not to be impressed. Therefore, this green's facial features also appeared in the deepest part of Yilin's dream. This is why Yilin's Kangxing compass has been spinning crazily since the first time it was used, as if it was broken. In fact, it is not that the compass is broken. But every corner of Greentown, every corner of the dreamland, in everyone's dream, is all green. There is no trace to be found, but it is everywhere, so the compass spins wildly. Now that you have figured out all this, the way to clear the level is self-evident. However, Yilin was a little reluctant to pass this trial in this way. Yilin sighed softly, staring at the reflection in the mirror for a long time. The green in the mirror just used his weird facial features to squeeze out a mysterious smile. They neither spoke nor changed their smiles. They looked at each other through a glass, and time seemed to have completely frozen. Under normal circumstances, it is impossible to distinguish between dreaming and waking up. Maybe waking up means falling into a dream instead. And falling into a dream means waking up again. The only thing that can confirm waking up from a dream, for us, is death. It's ironic to say that death has become the only reality that I firmly believe in. If she wants to kill Green, currently, Yilin can only think of one way. That is, kill all existences that can give birth to Green in every layer of dreams. As long as you kill all the moving or immobile beings in each layer of the dream, whether it is the residents of Greentown, or tourists like them, including all the nightmare monsters, it is equivalent to killing all the Greens. When Green became a kind of ideal creature, Yilin could think of a way to kill him completely, and this was the only way he could do it at present. Or is it? Find the original being who really caused all these phenomena. However, this difficulty is really too great. The being who can create this Greentown and all these phenomena is far beyond the realm that Yilin can currently reach. Yilin couldn't figure out why they would come to such a place and accept such a difficult task. If you cannot see through all this, cannot enter the deepest part of the dream, and cannot overcome the fear of death, you will simply not be able to complete such a mission. Or is there actually an easier way to pass this trial? What the trio did during the trial gave the residents nightmares and pushed the difficulty of the trial to an even more terrifying situation. Chances are, the difficulty of the dream wasn't that scary at first. On the first night, Alan's dream was nothing more than a torn starry sky. While Yulin was thinking, I don't know when. He has a violin in his hand. The texture of the violin is very real. When you touch it in your hand, even the texture of the wood is clearly discernible, and it faintly exudes a pleasant woody fragrance. In Yulin's mind, the murmurs from countless people and nightmares became even more crazy. It's like having a piece of glass in your head. Then there were countless hands, fingers covered with sharp nails, scratching on the glass. Zhiz-hizzy. Swish swish. Hwa hwa hwa. A splitting headache. Yulin's eyes even bled with blood. The twisted space slowly squeezed towards Yulin. In the increasingly crazy thoughts, Yulin's expression became calmer and calmer, and she smiled slightly. He turned his palm over, crushed the card, and replaced it with the Krypton gold appearance. Turn it over again. A common mask, the smiley face, is worn on the face. When she transformed into a familiar persona again, Yulin's inner voice seemed to be a little quieter. Yulin lowered his head and looked at the violin in his hand. Oh, this is what is called, is there anything in dreams? He doesn't understand music. But just when he started to pull the strings, melodious music poured out from his fingers. There was a girl born into royalty. As the old ballad goes, she is the most beautiful girl in the royal family. She's in the stone castle every night. Sleep alone. Any sound that can awaken even the dead. I can't even wake her up. Actually, there are a lot of tips. It's just that it's difficult to find it through normal means. The song is over. The violin in Yulin's hand disappeared. At the end of the dreamland, there is only him green left here. It can be said that this is his dream. His deepest dreams. That's why it presents such a fragmented posture. After her mind calmed down, Yulin looked at the scenery in front of her again. This is actually not the true posture of Greentown, but the true posture of my subconscious. It refers to, my memory. Is it also fragmented? Yulin remained silent. I don't know how much time passed. A knife appeared in his hand. Time to go. Yulin lowered his head and murmured, looking at his chest. Laugh. The next second, Yulin stabbed Shwe Jasmine into her chest with her backhand, crushing the beating heart with force. Once again he savor the taste of death. Base. Yulin opened her eyes again. This time, Yulin did not wake up in Judy's room. He stood outside Judy's hotel door. This is the next level of dreamland at the end. Death can make Yulin truly wake up. But when I wake up, I cannot return to reality. You can only go back to the previous level. This is also Yulin's purpose. Reach the end first, then reverse from the end, and fight back layer by layer. Is it because this place has the deepest impression on me in Greentown, so this place has become something like a resurrection point for me? Yulin looked down. I found that he was no longer wearing that ordinary suit, but the skeleton gentleman appearance package. On his face, he also wore an ordinary smiling mask. Yulin steps into Judy Hotel. Judy isn't here. To be precise, Judy is not here in this dream. Swish swish. Yulinian's power perception spread. In the room, it was so quiet that the only sound left was the sound of Alan drawing. Alan draws very carefully. Very focused. Even if Yulin didn't turn on following like a shadow, Alan didn't notice Yulin's existence. He still turned his back to Yulin and was drawing something. Yulin stood behind Alan. I found Alan, the soul painter, painting the threesome. Just haven't finished painting yet. Alan drew a sun with a smiley face in the middle. A piece of grassland. A flock of birds. A piece of flower. Draw him and Judy. When Alan was about to draw the faceless Grimm, Yulin suddenly grabbed Alan's hand and stopped his movement. Alan turned his head blankly. He looked at Yulin's unfamiliar mask and elegant attire, but he was not frightened. He just asked in a childish and flawless voice, "Uncle, who are you?" Yulin did not answer this question. Instead, he looked at the painting. What a great painting! Really, Alan's blue eyes lit up slightly, but Alan hasn't finished painting yet. That's enough, Yulin said. But Alan wants a father. Alan pouted, spoke hard, and gestured with his hands, as if he wanted to tell the weird uncle in front of him how much he wanted, how much he wanted, how much he wanted to have a father who loved him. Yulin understood that it was desire that created Alan's dream. Because of lack, Alan was extremely eager. The more he yearns for it, the more grim becomes ingrained in Alan's subconscious. He doesn't have any superpower to turn dreams into reality. Alan is just an ordinary kid who longs for love and has average drawing skills. Cherish the people in front of you. Judy doesn't like Alan. Alan was honest. Trust me, everything will be fine. Yulin hugged Alan gently and gently rubbed the delicate brown curly hair with one hand. Alan originally wanted to argue. But I don't know why. He rested his head on Uncle Way's shoulder, feeling inexplicably at ease. Alan slowly closed his eyes, breathing smoothly and softly. Alan, good night. Uncle, good night. Right now. Around Yulin and Alan, faces without facial features suddenly appeared on the walls. Those faces without features are like wallpaper, hanging on the wall. The empty face seemed to be staring at Yulin and Alan, but it seemed not. Laugh. Alan, who had his eyes closed, suddenly frowned. But maybe it was because Yulin's voice was too gentle that he didn't open his eyes. Just wake up, Alan. After Alan was completely out of breath, Yulin smiled and said to Alan, "Wake up." Legend has it that when a person's knife reaches a certain point, the person who was hit by the knife will be dead before he can even react. Yulin swore that this was the gentlest stab in his life. After Alan died, or rather woke up, the strange faceless faces on the surrounding walls disappeared silently, as if they had never appeared before. The old black and white TV suddenly made a rustling sound. Green appears on the screen. Wish you. These words appeared repeatedly around Yulin before she had time to finish them. Yulin flicked her wrist, and the blood jasmine ejected, directly piercing the old black and white TV. Sizzling. The TV was left with a blank snowflake. Dream, it's time to wake up. Yulin leaves the hotel. But the workload is a bit heavy. Yulin was helpless. But in order to survive and leave the trial, he could only start to tirelessly perform wake-up services, the free and thankless kind. Dream, finally wake up. Layer after layer. Again and again. Alan, wake up. Uncle, I had a dream. Well, it's okay, good night. Uncle, I dreamed of you in my dream. Yeah, good night. Alan, good night. Good night, Alan. Good night. I do not know how long it has been. I don't know how many knives were shot. It seemed like a long time. It seemed like the knife had been drawn thousands of times. The layers of dreams made Yulin lose her perception of time. Every time you leave a layer of dreamland, the speed of time around you will increase a little faster. In the square, the stalled clock started spinning again. From slow to fast. After killing everyone on each level, Yulin will commit suicide without hesitation and let herself wake up. Others, even if they know this way of clearing the level, may not have the courage to stab themselves in the chest every time. After all, under normal circumstances, it is impossible to tell whether the world you are in is a dream or reality. If suicide goes smoothly and you really die, everything will be over. But Yulin didn't hesitate. In addition to the appearance during the trial that could prove that he was in a dream, he also had another proof. None of the people he stabbed gave him chaos points. As long as it doesn't exist, It's not reality. Moreover, Yulin already knew which level the so-called reality was in this trial. No one thought that from the beginning, they had already entered a dream state. Start from seeing that rusty signboard. Base. Again. Yulin opened her eyes. This time. He's out of town. But on, the travel line.